Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Villain. Many children bring blessings, the heroines are broken. Chapter 61. Has that been arranged? Yi Yuan looked at the subordinates in front of her, her eyes were cold and majestic. It has been arranged. In the name of a meeting, the senior leaders of each hall have been called back. They are on the way now and will be here before 7 p.m. The subordinates reported tremblingly, looking at her with fear in their eyes. The deputy leader had treated them extremely cruelly before. Now the perversion and madness made them tremble with fear and dare not breathe. Very good, you go down, have someone keep a close eye on their families, and take action when I give the order. Yi Yuan waved her hand very coldly. If Shu Liang had not asked to reduce the losses of the Wolf Alliance, she would not have had to go through so much trouble and would have killed them directly. Keeping a close eye on their families is a means of control. If they are obedient, everything will be fine. At most, in order for the master to win the game, let them fight to the death. If they are not obedient, don't blame her for being cruel. Shu Group. President's office. Shu Liang was sitting in an office chair, looking at his phone leisurely. Secretary Shui Yorong kept nodding and reporting her work. He had just received the news that Lin Hao had been arrested on his phone, and he had guessed Yi Yuan's secret arrangement. He was quite smart. Will it start in the evening? Shu Liang raised his eyebrows slightly. He was going to see Lu Ruolin in the evening, so he couldn't go to the scene. Then, let's give him a live broadcast exclusively. Yi Zhan was getting deeper and deeper into trouble. After making a lot of money from stock trading yesterday, he asked his father to invest another 3 million. He was still dreaming of becoming a new generation of stock god who would surpass Buffett. Shu Liang smiled and said to let the storm come more violently. Xingyu Club. Sha Qingqiu also received the news that Lin Hao had been arrested, and her heart sank after she learned about the situation. It was obviously a game against Lin Hao, so that he could not participate in the next game. I thought it was Shu Liang who did it, but I found out that it was the Wolf Alliance. No, the Wolf League didn't know about Lin Hao's existence. It should be Shu Liang who told the news. Shu Liang represented the Wolf League and would not allow Lin Hao's combat power to exist. Although he knew that Shu Liang was behind it, he was also very disappointed with Lin Hao. He asked him to be more restrained recently, but something happened when he turned around. Sha Qingqiu wanted to fight for it and tried to bail Lin Hao out. But she was stopped by the Wolf League. She was in a heavy mood and could only rely on herself next. She had to win, otherwise she would surrender to Shu Liang and she didn't know what kind of posture she would be put in. In the evening, 7 o'clock, Shu Liang came to Lu Ruolin's house. At this time, he was sitting on the sofa and looking at the tablet in front of him. It clearly showed the picture of the Wolf League headquarters. According to the time of the party, everyone arrived on time and gathered in a hall. It can be said that all the high-level leaders of the Wolf League were gathered here. Everyone who was called out could be called out by name in the Underworld. Brother, you called us back. Is there something wrong? A hall master who was called back asked. Yeah, big brother, who dares to mess with our Wolf Alliance? Are you looking for death? It should be the Xingyu Association. I think they are tired of living. Quote. Someone spoke first, as if opening a chat box, and a group of people started talking. Brothers, listen to me. The leader Zhang Xiaoshan spoke, and the high-level officials quieted down. This shows the influence of him as the leader. Zhang Xiaoshan nodded with satisfaction and said, it's not the Xingyu Association. Although they have risen rapidly, they are not taken seriously by our Wolf Alliance. Call everyone here. First, because we brothers haven't seen each other for a long time, let's get together. As for the second, everyone pricked up their ears, knowing that the key point was coming. Second, someone wants to subdue the Wolf Alliance and bluntly wants us to be dogs, and asks if you agree. What? As soon as this was said, except for those who knew the reason, the faces of the others all changed drastically. Who is it? He is so bold that he dares to say such a thing. I think he is looking for death. Brother, just tell me who it is. I will take a few brothers to kill him now. It seems that we haven't taken action for a long time. People have forgotten the power of the Wolf Alliance. The crowd was indignant, and the hall was noisy and cursed. Yi Yuan looked at these people with cold eyes, and the murderous intent on his body was almost uncontrollable. Wait until the master's game is over, and you will all die. Seeing that everyone was refusing this, Zhang Xiaoshan was very satisfied and stretched out his hand to press. He is the eldest son of the Shu family, Shu Liang. To prevent retaliation, everyone needs to be vigilant. Recently, everyone should be more restrained, and some business can be temporarily put aside. After hearing what he said, all the senior executives were stunned. Many of them changed their faces wildly. I didn't expect that the person who was offended by the Wolf Alliance was actually the eldest son of the Shu family. What is the Shu family? The head of the 4 major families in the Magic City has dabbled in the military, politics, and business circles. What can they use to fight others? Of course, there are also people who are not afraid of trouble and speak with great pride. The Shu family. If they offend, they offend. We, the Wolf Alliance, are never afraid of trouble. Even if it is the Shu family, they are not qualified to let us be dogs. Seeing the change in everyone's face, Zhang Xiaoshan continued to speak. Everyone, don't be so pessimistic. The power of the Shu family has slowly shifted to the imperial capital. We don't have to be afraid at all. As the saying goes, a strong dragon cannot suppress a local snake. The Wolf Alliance has been rooted in the Magic City for 20 years and has never been afraid of anyone. As soon as the voice fell, it immediately attracted a voice of echo. Brother is right, fight him. We, the Wolf Alliance, don't cause trouble, but we are not afraid of trouble. The Shu family is nothing great, why are they so high and mighty? Quote. Seeing that the goal was achieved, Zhang Xiaoshan couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. If offending Shu Liang caused public anger, even he, the leader of the dark power, couldn't suppress it. Fortunately, these people still have blood, and all the worries did not happen. Immediately, he looked at Yi Yuan, one of the 4 deputy leaders, and she was in charge of the banquet. The next step was to eat and drink well, brag and chat. Yi Yuan's mouth curled up a little, and began to arrange the logistics to serve food and wine. Seeing this, Zhang Xiaoshan felt a tingling sensation on his scalp for some reason. He shook his head and put aside his distracting thoughts, thinking that he was overthinking. The hall was extremely lively, toasting each other, and bragging to the sky. But the good times didn't last long, and suddenly a person's face changed wildly, and his body fell down involuntarily. Someone, poisoned. As the first person fell, like dominoes, a group of high-level people fell one after another. Among them were the leader Zhang Xiaoshan and 3 deputy leaders. Wait, why are there only 3? Of the 4 deputy leaders, why were only 3 poisoned? A question emerged in everyone's mind. Soon, Yi Yuan stepped forward to answer their doubts. Everyone, stay safe. After taking off the heavy makeup, she looked even more beautiful, and the smile on her face was even more charming. But at this moment, everyone in the hall did not feel that the smile was enchanting, but instead felt chilled to the bones. Yi Yuan, what did you do to us? A deputy leader shouted angrily. Don't you see, I've poisoned you. The expression on Yi Yuan's face was a little evil. The leader of the alliance, Xiaoshan, was also very angry and wanted to kill the woman in front of him, but he couldn't. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning flashed through my mind. Only then did he realize that it was Yi Yuan who had proposed this high-level gathering. She had planned everything beforehand. He immediately asked angrily, why did you do that? Why? Yi Yuan seemed to whisper, but then her voice turned cold. If I'm to blame, it's your ignorance. It's an honor for the master to let the Wolf Alliance become a dog, but you idiots refused, making the master very embarrassed. Master has no face, you will die. There was a crazy expression on her face, which made everyone feel scared. What? Everyone was stunned when they heard the content of her words, and when they came to their senses, they were all furious. Is it still an honor to be a dog? I can go to Nima's. Etc. Zhang Xiaoshan discovered Hua Dian and his pupils shrank sharply. Are you from Shu Liang? Snap. Yi Yuan's eyes turned cold, and she appeared in front of him with a swish, and slapped her big mouth. Zhang Xiaoshan was extremely weak due to the poisoning, and was slapped away before he could react. The cold voice reached everyone's ears. You can also call the master's name. The crisp slaps silenced the originally noisy hall, and everyone was stunned. What did they see? Yi Yuan actually slapped Zhang Xiaoshan away. Zhang Xiaoshan is a master of dark power, and he speaks out in the Wolf League, making them both respect and fear him. Now, he was slapped hard. It's as if all their faith has been drained away. She is also an Jin. Someone exclaimed. Only then did everyone react. The speed that Yi Yuan erupted just now made them unable to see clearly. It was definitely at the dark level. Feeling the burning pain on his face, Zhang Xiaoshan was extremely angry. A pair of eyes seemed to be spitting out fire. That slap was not spared. He spun 720 degrees in the air before landing, and rolled another 4 or 5 meters before stopping. At this moment, his face was swollen, his teeth were almost broken, and he looked a little losing. The pain on his body was second to none, but the strange looks around him made him furious. Yi Yuan ignored him, moved a chair and sat down, looking down from above. Originally, according to my wishes, if you dare to reject the master, you will all die. The master sees that you are still of some use and gives you a chance to survive. After hearing her words, everyone immediately stopped and started shouting. They can become the top leaders of the Wolf Alliance. Each one of them is a little more ruthless than a ruthless person and is a real werewolf. How can you endure it? You can kill or behead me. If I frown, my surname will not be Dang. Back then, I had only one person and a knife, cutting from south to north, and then from north to south, without blinking an eye. Brother Li, weren't your eyes dry at that time? Is this the point? Quote. Seeing that everyone would rather die than surrender, Yi Yuan had already expected it, and the smile on his face became more and more evil. By the way, while you are eating, I am afraid something might happen to your family, so I will send someone to take care of you. If you don't believe me, you can call and ask. Everyone was shocked. The eyes looking at Yi Yuan were full of horror. The most taboo thing for those who are involved in the underworld is to bring harm to their families. Whether it is a fight between the two sides, internal strife within a gang, or grudges, we will always speak with strength and not with the other person's family. Now, I heard that Yi Yuan meant to hold their family hostage. If you don't obey, your family will suffer too. Everyone couldn't sit still, and everyone quickly called their families. The results obtained are that without exception, someone is monitoring them. Yi Yuan, what do you mean, it won't bring harm to your family? Are you going to violate the rules of the road? One person yelled angrily. Noisy. Yi Yuan frowned and a pistol appeared in his hand. Bang bang bang, is just 3 shots, not sloppy at all. The man was hit by 3 bullets and fell straight to the ground, with an angry expression on his face before he died. At the same time, Yi Yuan also called the other side. One word, kill. Now I have the final say in the Wolf Alliance. Who is in favor of it and who is against it? Perhaps because she had killed someone just now, she was filled with murderous aura at the moment, which was extremely attractive. Even though they were werewolves, they couldn't help but tremble with fear at this moment. Who wouldn't be afraid of this? If they resisted, not only would they die, but their families would also die. It seemed that there was only one way left for them. Surrender. I agree. A voice suddenly sounded. Then, one after another, people spoke up. I agree too. Leader Yi is a dark power expert, and he should be the leader. Quote. Seeing this, Zhang Xiaoshan, who was not far away, shivered and looked at everyone fiercely. He thought in his heart that when he recovered, he must kill all these traitors. You are very good, but I don't believe you. Yi Yuan smiled and took out a dagger. With a light wave, the dagger was inserted straight into the table. Then he pointed at Zhang Xiaoshan. Now, everyone stab him, and you can survive. Everyone. Zhang Xiaoshan. Hearing Yi Yuan's request, the faces of the high-level members of the Wolf Alliance changed wildly. In the underworld, the word righteousness is the most important. Brothers are like limbs, women are like clothes. Zhang Xiaoshan is their eldest brother. Betraying the eldest brother will be despised, not to mention stabbing the eldest brother. If they do it, they must keep it a secret, otherwise they will not end well. In this way, they will always be manipulated and will never be able to turn over. This is exactly what Yi Yuan wants. Not far away, Zhang Xiaoshan's eyes were fierce. He was thinking about how to retaliate in the future, and was dumbfounded after hearing her words. There are so many people in the hall, if everyone stabs him, he will definitely die. For a moment, his eyes looking at Yi Yuan were full of fear and, begging for mercy. I'll give you 30 seconds to think about it. If you don't do it after 30 seconds, then die with him. She showed a bloodthirsty smile and started to count down. Not long after the words fell, someone had made a choice. I saw a man slowly getting up with all his strength, and walked towards Zhang Shaoshan step by step. When he passed the table, he pulled out the dagger. When he came in front of him, shame flashed in his eyes, and then turned into determination. He raised his hand and stabbed Zhang Shaoshan with a knife. Because of the poisoning, he was slapped away by Yi Yuan, and he had no strength at this time. He could only watch it all. One person took the lead, and someone else stood up. Came in front of him, pulled out the dagger and stabbed it again. One after another, until everyone in the hall was stabbed. At this time, the originally famous leader of the Wolf Alliance died with his eyes open. On the other side, Shu Liang put down the tablet. This good show did not disappoint him. What surprised him the most was Yi Yuan. She had the ability, the means, and most importantly, she had brains. He was quite satisfied with the first slave he collected. Click, there was a sound of the door opening, and Lu Ruolin came out of the bedroom. She had just returned from the company, and she was surprised and happy to see Shu Liang, whom she had been thinking about day and night. Shu Liang said he would take her for a walk, so she quickly changed into casual clothes. Holding hands, she walked with Shu Liang on the streets of the summer night, listening to the chirping of insects and silkworms around. Lu Ruolin's face was full of happiness. Touching her slightly bulging belly, she couldn't help but feel grateful for the child in her belly. If she hadn't suddenly become pregnant, Shu Liang wouldn't have changed his attitude towards her, and he wouldn't have taken such good care of her as he did now. The next day, Shu Liang returned to the Shu family compound. The luck of the Bloody Rose has almost been harvested, and if Yi Yuan is called today, it will almost be harvested. I have to say, she is really good at training people. As soon as he got off the car, a message came over, and Shu Liang raised his eyebrows. It showed that Yi Zan secretly transferred 10 million from his father's card and invested all of it in the stock market. Why do you say secretly? Yi Zan told his father that he planned to make a sure-win deal, but was rejected. Seeing the funds in the account increase several times every day, he felt heartbroken. It would be better if the capital was more. He thought of Shu Liang's humiliation of him, and the goddess was still being deceived and played. Finally, he made up his mind and made a direct transfer himself. He knew the password of his father's account, which was not a difficult task for him. At worst, he would give his father a surprise when he made money. After investing all the money in the stock market, Yi Zan began to look forward to it. His golden finger is indeed stock trading. According to the information reported by his subordinates, even without their operation behind the scenes, Yi Zan can still make a profit every day. Although the profit will not be so much. The fish has taken the bait, we can start to close the net. Shu Liang immediately issued an order. A large group of traders under his command started to work. They are usually responsible for sniping large groups, or even other national finances, and the funds harvested are billions. They were all a little confused about Shu Liang's request to harvest a stockholder worth tens of millions. Although confused, they did not say much and faithfully executed the order. Yi family. Yi Zan stared at the stock market as usual. At first, it was not beyond his expectations, and the stocks he bought were slowly rising. But not long after, those stocks actually fell rapidly and soon hit the limit. Yi Zan was dumbfounded. This was the first time he encountered such a situation. For a while, he was a little at a loss. Just when he was hesitating whether to withdraw, several stocks actually started to rise again. The speed of their rise was also very fast, and they were about to return to their original positions. Yi Zan was no longer panicked, his hands were no longer shaking, and a smile appeared on his face. He said, how could the stocks he chose fall? Even if they fall, they will rise back later, and they may even rise sharply. He had encountered this situation several times before. However, his smile froze suddenly. The stock fell again, and even fell to a new height. Yi Zan did not believe in evil, and at this time he had no intention of withdrawing, and only expected the stock to rise again. In his expectation, the stock continued to fall. Just when he was about to withdraw his hands again, the stock miraculously improved. If there were senior stockholders who saw this scene, they would definitely find that someone was behind the scenes. Yi Zhan had already fallen into the trap step by step. Indeed, Yi Zhan was like a gambler who had lost all his money and was looking forward to getting his money back. Whenever he was desperate, the stock would get better a little, giving him a glimmer of hope. The rhythm was completely controlled, jumping back and forth between hope and despair. These traders under Xu Liang were all top experts, and they were very familiar with controlling people's hearts. After giving orders to his subordinates, Xu Liang no longer cared. They would naturally do things well. What? Can't do it? Then what's the use of you? He asked someone to bring out the tea set and started to make tea. His tea art is also god level, and the reward from a female protagonist is one of his side jobs. He skillfully placed the tea and warmed the cup. His movements were smooth, and he did it in one go. His every move seemed to be integrated with the world. His temperament was elegant and easygoing, and it was pleasing to the eye. Yi Yuan arrived at some point, and when he saw that he had brewed a pot of tea, he hurriedly helped to pour the tea. Go and see the bloody rose. Xu Liang picked up the teacup and shook it slightly, looking calmly at the scene of flowers blooming in front of him. Yes, master. Yi Yuan took the order and went to the basement. She could guess Xu Liang's intention, which was to make that woman completely mentally collapsed. She would not let her master down. Afternoon. Xu Liang came to the basement. Ding. Bloody Rose's mind collapsed. Villain value plus 1000. Ding. Bloody Rose's mentality exploded. Villain value plus 1000. Opening square bracket ... closing square bracket. Yi Yuan is really good at training people, and this killer heroine's luck is not much left. But that's all. No matter what means she uses now, her luck can't be reduced. Xu Liang thought for a while. It seems that it is not so easy to make the protagonist's halo disappear, and it requires greater stimulation. It's time to play the life and death game with her. As early as knowing Bloody Rose's identity, he has been planning to conquer her, and now he is ready. Pick a dress for her to wear and bring her out. After instructing Yi Yuan, Xu Liang walked out of the basement. Arriving at the private golf course, he stood with his hands behind his back, and an invisible aura emanated. Swish. A figure wearing a mask and covered in a black robe appeared in front of him and knelt on one knee. The black robe was embroidered with a pattern similar to a spider web, which was the symbol of Skynet. It symbolizes that the whole world is within the net. The black-robed man looked at him with respect and enthusiasm. My lord, from the title, it can be heard that he is a killer of Skynet. Xu Liang looked deep and said calmly, bring the people up, the game can begin. Not long after, several blonde and blue-eyed crooked nuts were brought up. It is not difficult to tell from their clothes and temperament that they are all wealthy people, the second generation of rich people who are not short of money. At this time, their faces were full of rebelliousness, arrogance and domineering. I still haven't realized the seriousness of the matter. My father is an oil tycoon. I advise you to let me go, otherwise you will all die when my father comes to find me. My dad is a member of the Black House. If you dare to arrest me, aren't you afraid of provoking an international dispute? My dad is. When they introduced their identities, their backgrounds were terrifying. However, neither Skynet Killer nor Xu Liang had any intention of paying attention to them. Why care about a bunch of dead people clamoring? When Bloody Rose was brought to the golf course by Yi Yuan, she saw a few people shouting and felt a little familiar. Soon, she remembered. A year ago, these people were teased and chased by a killer. She happened to pass by and killed the killer and saved them. Why are they here? Considering that Xu Liang is the master of Skynet, it is not surprising to find these people. I wonder what Xu Liang means by coming to them. She suddenly had a bad feeling. Xu Liang sat on a chair, supporting his head with one hand, looking at the people with interest. Yi Yuan came up behind him and started massaging him. Let's play a game first. The name of the game is, Introduce Yourself. To put it simply, introduce yourselves. Remember to be detailed. If it doesn't match the information I checked. Xu Liang raised his eyebrows, and the expressionless Skynet killer beside him raised his pistol and pointed it at them. Seeing the black muzzle of the gun, several people finally realized that something was wrong. This group of people was different from the robbers they had encountered before. After capturing them, they seemed to have no intention of holding them hostage for ransom. Several young people finally started to panic, and when they were about to say something, Shu Liang spoke. "Now, the game begins, you go first." He stretched out his hand and pointed at a young man with blonde hair and short hair. Facing someone pointing a gun at him, the blonde young man panicked, but he still mustered up the courage to speak. "My dad is an oil tycoon. Just tell me how much you want and I will ask him to call you right away." "Waste of time, next one," Shu Liang said impatiently before he could finish his words. Everyone was stunned for a moment, and before they could react, a gunshot rang out. A cloud of blood mist exploded. Next to them, the head of the blonde young man whose father was an oil tycoon exploded, blood and brains flying. Because the distance is not far, it is sprinkled on the remaining few people. Everyone was stunned. They didn't expect that this group of people would dare to shoot. Facing this bloody scene, some people couldn't bear it and vomited on the spot. They all panicked. They were not afraid that the other party was a robber. They had plenty of money at home. "I'm afraid that these people don't want anything, it's like it's really a game, to kill them for fun." Bloody Rose couldn't bear it. She wanted to stop it, but she knew very well that there was nothing she could do. "I can only turn my face to one side and look no further." As Shu Liang's fingers fell on another person, the man looked horrified and did not dare to neglect, so he quickly began to introduce himself. My name is Mike. I am 25 years old. My father is a member of parliament." He did not forget that Shu Liang asked him to introduce himself in detail, so he began to try hard to recall his childhood. 5 years old, playing with the neighbor's child next door and pushing him down the stairs. 8 years old, throwing acid on the nanny. 13 years old, raped the new nanny. 18 years old, obsessed with a female classmate in my class. 23 years old, obsessed with a young girl. Quote. As he continued to tell, Bloody Rose not far away was stunned, with disbelief on her face. When she passed by and saw several people being teased and tortured by the killer, she took action to save them. Unexpectedly, one of the guys was so crazy that it would be an exaggeration to call him a devil. Shu Liang's expression remained calm as he leisurely enjoyed Yi Yuan's massage. "Your memory is very good, but you made a mistake. You raped not 12 young girls, but 13. The man's face was full of horror when he heard this. Just when he was about to say something, a bullet fired. Bang! As expected, the same head blossomed and blood splattered. The few remaining people were trembling, their faces pale and bloodless. The 2 people who were killed just now were already considered the 2 most powerful among their group of young men. But he was shot dead without mercy. Everyone's mentality collapsed. As Shu Liang stretched out his hand, the man's whole body started to tremble. Finally, I honestly began to introduce myself. When several people were introduced, Bloody Rose was stunned and her mind went blank. It turns out that it's not just Mike who is crazy, but a whole group of people are like this. A group of young men also formed a club, and countless young girls were harmed by them. But he saved them, which is equivalent to an accomplice of this group of people. This was contrary to her long-standing justice, and her heart was greatly shocked. At this time, a playful voice sounded in her ears. "By the way, I have a piece of news here, do you want to hear it?" Without waiting for her to reply, Shu Liang spoke to himself. The killers who chased them were hired by the family they harmed after spending all their savings, and the request was to torture them. "You are really a good person who saved them." He put emphasis on the 3 words, good person. Shu Liang sighed and continued. "After you saved them, they killed the whole family and held several parties." Seeing Rose's body trembling and her face full of painful expressions, Shu Liang smiled slightly. That's right, what he wanted was to kill people and destroy their hearts. He didn't know much about the female protagonists, but judging from the actions of this Bloody Rose, he was a little paranoid. Paranoia about justice. It can't be said that they are wrong. They are the protagonists in justice, there is no doubt about this. But she just doesn't know how to adapt, and she's a bit stubborn. Do what they think is right. It's a bit like helping others when seeing injustice. For example, When she saw these people being chased, she saved them without hesitation. But she didn't know that she saved a group of evil people. I believe that after she knew that she was not only not doing good things, but also helping the evil, it would be a great blow to her beliefs. Ding! Crimson Rose's mentality exploded, villain value plus 1000. Next, the game continues. Shu Liang waved his hand with a slight smile on his face. The remaining people were taken down, and 7 or 8 more people were brought up. There were men and women in the group. Different from the previous arrogance of the young masters after they were brought here, they looked frightened and trembling. They seemed to know who was arresting them. Yes, they are also from the dark world, and of course they know something about the mysterious Skynet. Skynet is very mysterious, no one knows what the killer inside looks like. Only their legends are spread. They wore masks and were covered in black robes with patterns embroidered on them that resembled spider webs. Looking at the decorations of the group in front of them, the 8 people looked horrified. This group of people is probably the Skynet killers. After learning that Skynet, the most mysterious and terrifying force in the dark world, had captured them, they were all scared to death. Skynet's killers stood around, all of them afraid to breathe and trembling. They also saw Shu Liang under the shade of a tree not far away. When they saw these unblinking Skynet killers being so respectful to the young man, a guess emerged in their minds. Lord of Skynet, several people suddenly felt their scalps numb. Every killer of Skynet is so powerful. The master of Skynet who controls them is so easy to imagine, it is simply unimaginable. Slowing down gradually, Bloody Rose also saw them. She also knew these 8 people, and she had saved their lives. Her heart became anxious, and she felt a strong uneasiness. Afterwards, Shu Liang told the rules of the game, and a few people did not dare to neglect or conceal them, so they told them all honestly. It turns out that the 8 people are all internationally wanted criminals, and they are even famous in the dark world. Born in a terrorist organization, he commits all kinds of crimes including burning, killing and looting. As several people narrated, Chiangwei's mentality exploded again. Ding! Bloody Rose is mentally broken, villain value plus 1000. After a few people finished talking, Shu Liang asked people to take them down and replace them with the next group. This time it was an elderly couple who were brought up. The old man looked amiable, and the woman had a kind face. No one would have thought that this old couple turned out to be human traffickers and had abducted hundreds of children. This time Chiangwei's mentality completely collapsed. Because she was trafficked, she especially hates human traffickers. Unexpectedly, he saved the people he hated the most and allowed them to continue doing evil. Next, batch after batch of people were brought up, all of whom had done evil things and were saved by her. The last person brought up was a beggar young man who turned out to be the murderer who killed and dismembered his body. Chiangwei looked numb and confused. The belief in justice in her heart was already on the verge of being shattered. Seeing that it was almost done, Shu Liang snapped his fingers. Subsequently, groups of people who were taken down were brought up again and gathered together. Get ready to start the next program. Looking at the dozens of people below, Shu Liang had a joking expression on his face. Now, give you a chance. He pointed at Chiangwei. Whoever kills her will live on. As he finished speaking, a long knife and a pistol were thrown into the crowd. I don't know if it was a coincidence, but the pistol happened to fall at the feet of the beggar young man, and he quickly picked it up. He comes from a beautiful country. A grain of freedom, shot every day. He was no stranger to guns. Thinking of what Shu Liang said, he immediately shot Chiangwei without hesitation. Bang bang bang. 3 shots in a row were missed. It can be seen that his accuracy is not good. Bloody Rose came back to her senses and saw a group of people staring at her with scarlet eyes, as if looking at prey. She couldn't accept it at all. Although it was Shu Liang's coercion, she saved them, and it still made her feel cold that they shot without hesitation. Another gunshot rang out, and Chiangwei ducked out of instinct. Not only was she shot, but someone rushed towards her with a long knife. At first, she just avoided it, but gradually her eyes changed. The inhuman torture she had suffered these days, the knowledge that she was an accomplice of the bad guys, the betrayal of the crowd who wanted to kill her, all kinds of negative emotions exploded. She no longer avoided them. Since these people wanted to kill her, she would kill them too. A top killer is a top killer. Even if he is tortured for several days, he still has the fighting power of an jinn. These people are not her enemies at all. Chiangwei went crazy. A few minutes later, she had killed everyone and stood among the corpses. At this time, her whole body was bathed in blood, as if she was the god of death coming out of hell. Bang bang bang. There was a burst of applause. Shu Liang clapped his hands and stood up. At this time, the Bloody Rose did look a bit like a bodyguard in his mind. Chiangwei's face was cold, her eyes fell on Shu Liang, and her murderous intent boiled over. The smile on Shu Liang's face did not diminish, with a playful look on his face. I forgot to tell you that some of these people said what I asked them to say. In fact, not all of them are heinous. Just like that beggar young man, he was a rich second generation pretending to be a beggar to experience life. He was indeed beaten by gangsters at that time. You didn't save the wrong person. Boom. Rose's head seemed to explode. What did she hear? Some of the people she killed were not criminals. Doesn't that mean that she killed good people? The Dragon Slayer finally became the evil dragon. The justice that she had always upheld collapsed at this moment. Ding. Bloody Rose's mentality exploded, villain value plus 1000. Ding. Bloody Rose's faith collapsed, villain value plus 1001. Shu Liang raised his eyebrows, villain value plus 1001, is this off the charts? In his sight, the luck on Rose's head completely dissipated. Just when her mind collapsed, Shu Liang activated the ability of mind control. Swish. It seemed that nothing had happened, but everything was different. Bloody Rose slowly raised her head, and the pain, entanglement, and regret on her face disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by fanaticism and piety. Tap tap tap. She walked step by step. Yi Yuan frowned and took a step forward, ready to block Shu Liang. The blood rose in this state brought her a strong sense of threat and oppression. Shu Liang reached out to stop her, and looked at the approaching red figure with a smile. When she came in front of him, she knelt on one knee and lowered her head. Blood Rose, I am willing to dedicate everything to my master. Shu Liang looked at the submissive heroine, who could no longer be called the protagonist. He said after a moment of silence. From now on, you can be called Hong Yi, and be my personal bodyguard for the time being. She chose the clothes herself, and she chose to wear red. She must have a preference for red. Shu Liang didn't choose the name casually. Yes, master. Get up. Bloody Rose, now should be said to be in red, obediently stood up and stood beside him respectfully. Acting like a bodyguard, she was drawn by the system through a lottery. It should be said that she was in this world and only found him under the influence of the system. Although it's a bit tricky to let him subdue it by himself. But it seems, it does smell like a personal bodyguard. Yi Yuan next to her was full of envy. Personal bodyguard, you can always be with Shu Liang, what an honor that is. She was envious, and she looked forward to being reused by Shu Liang. In the past, she only wanted to follow a strong man like Shu Liang. After these days of controlling the Wolf Alliance, she enjoyed the pleasure of controlling other people's lives and deaths. Now everything she had was given by Shu Liang, and she could take it back if she was unhappy. She had to be more pleasable. It is worth mentioning that Shu Liang did not control them to become emotional puppets, which would lose a lot of fun. They still have their own thoughts, and Yi Yuan's perverted attributes have not changed. Bloody Rose's character changed, and she began to isolate herself under a series of blows. The originally single-minded righteous character is no longer there, but now no matter who it is, Shu Liang will show no mercy when he asks her to do it. The personal bodyguard is online and Shu Liang is in a good mood. Immersed in the system, the villain value unexpectedly reached over 40,000. Most of them were contributed by red shirts. Let's see how your luck is today. System, lottery, ding. Congratulations to the host, you won the prize. Marrow cleansing pill, 1 bottle. Marrow cleansing pill. 10 pills in a bottle, cleans the marrow and cuts the pulse, removes impurities from the whole body, and improves the qualifications of the root and bones. Shu Liang raised his eyebrows. The reward this time is pretty good. As we all know, the best time to practice martial arts is when you are young. When he grew up, his bones were reshaped, making it extremely difficult to practice martial arts. With the marrow cleansing pill, you don't have to worry, you can improve your physical fitness in all aspects. He has gone through systematic purification of marrow and veins, and his qualifications are far beyond ordinary people. He can break through the realm without any shackles. Even if his Skynet killers have high potential, they are still trapped in Wajan under the influence of genetic medicine. If I take the marrow cleansing pill, will it break through the transformation energy? Shu Liang secretly thought it was a pity that there was only one bottle. As for giving the marrow cleansing pill to Yi Yuan and Hong Yi, he has no plans yet, and it depends on their subsequent performance. Continue to draw. Ding. Congratulations to the host, you won the prize. Zhu Yandan, 1 bottle. Yenjudin. 10 pills in a bottle, youth will last forever. No unnecessary explanation. 4 words, eternal youth, are enough to explain the preciousness of this elixir. If you put it up for auction, it will definitely fetch a sky-high price, and countless women will go crazy for it. Of course, Shu Liang would not do such a mindless thing. Taking priceless treasures to auction is something only a fool would do. With this killing weapon, he is already thinking about which heroine to attack. It seems that I am lucky today, both items are priceless. Keep pumping. Ding. Congratulations to the host, you won the prize, Desert Eagle Pistol Modified. Golden Desert Eagle. Unlimited bullets, unlimited magazines, as powerful as armor-piercing bullets, only for use by the host. Brush. The next moment, a Desert Eagle pistol appeared in his hand. In the sunlight, the gold on the lower surface reflects light. The pistol has obviously been modified and looks powerful and cool. Unfortunately, it is of no use to him. Even after modification, it can still kill and Jin and threaten the early stage of Wajan. Most of these existences can be dealt with by red clothes. If he can't figure it out, he can solve it with one hand. Shu Liang didn't dislike it. There were many protagonists in this world, so it was no problem to deal with some ordinary protagonists. Continue. Ding. Congratulations to the host, you won the prize, recruiting a special talent. Talent recruitment. Summon special talents who are 100% loyal to the host. Shu Liang's eyes lit up. This is not a bloody rose that appeared under the influence of the system and needs to be conquered by him. This is a real dead warrior. After a few months, another dead soldier finally appeared, and he was a special talent. Once before, the heroine surrendered, and a recruitment of 100,000 dead soldiers was immediately revealed. It really gave him the confidence to gain a foothold in this world. With 100,000 loyal men, Shu Liang decided to form a force considering the placement problem. Genetic medicine and 100,000 dead soldiers led to the rapid rise of Skynet in half a year. Without hesitation, Shu Liang immediately used special talent recruitment. After checking the information of the summoned person, he had a wonderful expression. Turns out to be a biology professor. The system automatically arranged the identity, the youngest academician in Kyushu. He is mainly engaged in research in the field of biology. What everyone doesn't know is that he has been secretly studying human genes, touching the forbidden zone of human beings. He has made great achievements in human genetics, but due to restrictions, he cannot conduct experiments. This is not a difficult task for Shu Liang, just send it to the Black Continent Research Institute. Presumably, the Research Institute will achieve higher results because of his arrival. Not only study genetic drugs, but also study the marrow cleansing pills and anti-aging pills awarded this time. What if there is a surprise? Yi's house. In the bedroom. Yi Zan stared at the computer with red eyes. Just now, he saw that several stocks he bought plummeted. After checking, he found that those companies declared bankruptcy and his account funds were cleared. In other words, he not only lost the original millions, but also lost the 10 million secretly transferred from his father's card. If his father knew that he was such a spendthrift, he would be furious. Yi Zan was already losing money at this time. He couldn't believe this was true. It must be bad luck. The probability of several companies going bankrupt at the same time is no less than winning the lottery. No, I have to get back what I lost. Like a gambler who has lost all his money, he set his eyes on the remaining money in the card. 3 days passed. Shu Liang comforted several other women, each of whom loved him to death. Who said he was invincible? Go to Laoji. After getting in the car, Shu Liang said the destination. Tonight, His game with Sha Qingqiu was about to begin, and he certainly wouldn't miss this good show. Hong Yi drove obediently in front. Since she became a personal bodyguard, the others had all withdrawn. Having her by his side was enough. If necessary, those people could be recalled at any time. Ding. Yi Zan's mentality collapsed. Villain value plus 555. Ding. Yi Zan's mind was unstable. Villain value plus 666. Ding. Xu Liang's eyes flashed, and he took out his mobile phone and looked at his subordinate's information report on Yi Zan. Tisk. After all, he is a protagonist, don't be played to death so quickly. On the other side, Yi family. Yi Zan sat in front of the computer, his eyes were bloodshot, and he had 2 big dark circles under his eyes. His hair was messy and greasy, and his face was extremely haggard. He hadn't slept for 3 days and 3 nights, and he had been staring at the stock market. At this moment, his eyes were dull, and he looked at the zero account funds in disbelief. In these 3 days, he transferred all the tens of millions in his father's account and invested them in the stock market. Now he has lost all his money. He is a complete idiot. Tens of millions, he spent them all in a few days. Yi Zan suddenly felt a little cold, and his body was shaking slightly. He thought of one thing. If his father knew that he had spent all the tens of millions of demolition money, he would be furious. Dong dong dong. At this time, his bedroom door was knocked hard. His father's anxious voice came from outside the door. Xiao Zan, open the door for me, the money in my card is gone, did you transfer it away? Yi Zan woke up suddenly. Looking at the door that was still being knocked, as if he was looking at some kind of flood and beast, he didn't dare to open it at all. Outside the door, Yi's father knocked for a long time but there was no movement. Thinking that something had happened, he was about to knock the door open. At this moment, the door was opened from the inside. He saw Yi Zan, who looked haggard, and was immediately startled, and asked hurriedly. Xiao Zan, what happened to you? Dad, Yi Zan shouted, his voice slightly hoarse. What happened? Don't scare me. Seeing that he was hesitant to speak, Yi's father panicked even more. After struggling for a long time, it was impossible to hide this matter, so Yi Zan decided to tell it. What did you say? Yi's father stumbled and stared at Yi Zan with an incredible face. He suspected that he had heard it wrong, and asked again uncertainly. You said. You took all the money to invest in stocks. And lost everything. Yi Zan nodded guiltily. Puff. Yi's father spit out a mouthful of old blood, and was furious. You. He pointed at Yi Zan and wanted to speak, but couldn't. I just felt the anger rising up and rushing straight to my mind. Then, a feeling of dizziness came, and he fell straight down. No one knows what he has been through these days. Since listening to Yi Zan's advice and testing relatives and friends and being exposed, many people look at him with strange eyes. There is disgust, ridicule, sneer, and disdain. Even if he is walking on the road, an unfamiliar passerby looks at him, he feels that he is laughing. He has been under great pressure recently, and the whole person is a little panic. Fortunately, he is really rich, and the tens of millions in his card make him feel at ease. There is money in hand, and there is no panic in the heart, which is the truth. However, his beloved son suddenly told him, I have spent all your money. Now, they have really become a joke. Dad, what's wrong with you? Seeing his father vomiting blood and falling to the ground, Yi Zan panicked. 2 hours later, Yi Zan came out of the ward, and the doctor's examination result was that he was angry. It's not a big problem, but he needs to stay in the hospital for a while. Yi Zan felt extremely guilty. It was all because of him. If it weren't for his bad idea of testing people's hearts, there wouldn't be no relatives visiting now. These were all relatives who were willing to lend money to his family before. He didn't dare to ask those who didn't lend him money. If he hadn't lost money in stock speculation, his father wouldn't be so angry. The more he thought about it, the more he felt guilty and regretful. Ding-ling-a-ling, ding-ling-a-ling, ding-ling-a-ling. A phone rang. Yi Zan picked it up and frowned. The caller ID showed that it was Uncle San. He knew the character of this Uncle San. His family was obviously very rich, but he refused to lend a penny. Although he was unhappy, he still answered the call. Xiaoshuan, I heard your dad is in the hospital. Is there anything going on? If you need help, let me know. A slightly flattering voice came from the other side. No, Yizan was impatiently about to hang up. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he said with a turn of his eyes. It's no big deal, it's just that my family is a little short of money recently. Uncle San on the other side raised his eyebrows and curled his lips in his heart when he heard this. Who doesn't know that your family just demolished 50 million, and it's only been a few days and you're short of money? Is this another test? I thought that last time it was a test, and if I didn't lend money, the two families would lose contact from then on. I didn't expect it to happen again. I thought I must seize the opportunity this time. He smiled immediately. Lack of money. If you need money, come to me. Although Uncle San's family is also in trouble, since it's a relative in trouble, I have to show my appreciation no matter what. How much do you want? I'll transfer it to you right away. Yizan was shocked. He was just testing it out, but he didn't expect that he was really willing to lend money. His heart immediately became active, and he said tentatively. The more the better, it would be best to have 1 million. Uncle San couldn't help but frown. 1 million is not a small number for him. After lending it out, his family will have to live a tight life. But then he thought, Yizan's family has demolished 50 million, will they still embezzle his money? I heard from the relatives who lent money to Yizan before that the money they lent was returned. So he stamped his feet, gritted his teeth, and transferred 1 million to Yizan. Seeing 1 million in the account, Yizan was immediately excited. It's not because of this 1 million that he was excited, he had seen tens of millions. It's because he saw the hope of rising again. He borrowed 1 million from Uncle San, what about other relatives and friends? If he borrowed 10 million and invested it in the stock market, wouldn't it be easy to make back all the losses at that time? As for whether he would lose money, he had already thought of the reason. He was too much of a fool before. He must be very cautious this time. Thinking of this, Yizan started to borrow money from relatives and friends again. What, Brother Zan, you are short of money? Ah ha ha, it just so happens that I have enough money now, it's no problem to lend you money, we are so close. Xiao Zan, this is a little gift from your third aunt. I hope you don't think it's too little. If you need help, you can ask your third aunt and uncle-in-law. We are relatives, so of course we should be closer. Borrow money. You tried it once, and you are trying it again, right? Isn't it just lucky that the house was demolished? What's there to brag about? Quote. An hour later, Yizan called and sent messages to all his relatives and friends. Unlike the previous time when he only borrowed tens of thousands of yuan, this time he borrowed more than 9 million yuan in total. Almost all those who didn't borrow money last time borrowed it. And few of those who borrowed money last time could borrow it this time. Yizan felt bitter. He is not a fool, why doesn't he understand the difference? Only those who are willing to lend them money for the first time are truly close to them, and their relationship may become increasingly distant in the future. Even though he borrowed so much money this time, who doesn't have their own thoughts? But he doesn't care. Just use this money to make back the original amount. Seeing that he still needs hundreds of thousands to 10 million, Yizan checked his friend list to see if he could borrow more. Suddenly, his eyes fell on a name. Goddess. After thinking about it, he edited a message and sent it out. Xiaomang, can you lend me some more money? I will pay you back soon. But just after sending it out, a red exclamation mark popped up. Yizan was dumbfounded. He was blocked by Li Xiaoming. He looked through the friend list again, but in the end he didn't get hundreds of thousands. He couldn't help but think of his home and the small factory at home. If he mortgaged it, he would definitely get 1 or 2 million. Yizan was tempted. He is now mainly raising money. As long as the capital is more, he will earn more and get back the original amount faster. He is still quite confident about stock trading. Those were all accidents before, and he didn't think carefully. He will be very cautious in the future. He will definitely make all the money back. People are like this. If they don't see the final result, they will keep a fluke mentality. Just like a certain author. He obviously failed, but he still comforted himself and insisted on going on, crying. Night falls. The night scene of Shanghai is full of lights and wine. Red, yellow, green lights illuminate the entire night sky. Unlike the hustle and bustle in the bustling city, Shanghai has such an area where you can't see any people at night. They go to bed on time every night. This is the old street, a famous slum. The reason why people here go to bed early is not only because they have to work early tomorrow, but also because they will die if they walk too much at night. They will really die. The city is strictly controlled, and those gangs dare not cause trouble. This place has become a place for gang fights, and gunfights. As soon as night fell, someone noticed an unusual atmosphere and locked the door and went to sleep early. It was indeed unusual, because a gang fight was about to take place here. Today, the Wolf Alliance and the Star Moon Club would compete to decide who would be the king of the underground world of the Magic City in the future. Every time a gang fight breaks out, no one knows how many people will die. And this was just a game that Xu Liang thought of on a whim. The troops of both sides were gathering, and countless younger brothers gathered together with machetes and steel pipes. On the high building, Xu Liang had a panoramic view of all this. At this time, he was leisurely drinking red wine while enjoying the leg massage from his personal bodyguard Hong Yi. Hong Yi, do you want to make a bet with me, who will win and lose in this game? Feeling interesting, Xu Liang looked at Hong Yi in front of him and raised his eyebrows slightly. No matter the victory or defeat, the master is the winner. Hong Yi answered meticulously. Boring. Xu Liang sighed, and then continued to look at the scene below with interest. Xingyu Club. President, what are you waiting for? Let's go straight over and destroy the Wolf League. Let's do it in a big way and disperse early. What about the Wolf League? We're going to beat him like a dog today. That's right, let them know the strength of our Xingyu Club. If we defeat the Wolf League, we will be the boss in the future. Quote. A group of younger brothers waved their weapons, their fighting spirit was high, and they wanted to rush up and kill for 300 rounds immediately. Unlike their determination to win, the leader Sha Qingqiu was in a heavy mood. If it was just the Wolf League, she would not be afraid at all. Although the people in the Wolf League were all werewolves, there were more than ruthless people. But the comfortable life for 20 years had already corrupted their will. I don't know how much of the werewolf spirit at that time is left now. She was worried about Xu Liang. She had made a special understanding of Xu Liang during this period. He was calm and always looked calm, as if everything was under his control. He dared to bet with her that he would never sit idly by and must have done something in secret. This is a tough battle, she must do her best. Otherwise, she and the entire Xingyu Club will have to surrender to Xu Liang. When she thought of being put in various positions by that man, she felt a chill, and her eyes became more determined. On the other side, the area where the Wolf League is located. Like the Xingyu Club, this side is also full of passion and is eager to do a big fight. This is just the idea of the Wolf League's younger brother. As Sha Qingqiu expected, these middle and high-level people have lost their fighting spirit after enjoying themselves for 20 years. They just want to spend their old age in peace. But today, they have to transform into werewolves again and fight the Xingyu Club. Even Bu Shi paid the price of his life for it. They didn't want to, but they were forced by the new leader. Yi Yuan sent people to control their families. If you don't want to get into trouble, fight to the death. If they lose this fight, they, including their families, will have no need to live. As expected of a madman, he didn't care about the lives of these people for Xu Liang's victory. This group of middle and high-level people were helpless. They could only win and not lose. Under this suffocating threat, their sluggish werewolf spirit was stimulated again. With Yi Yuan's order, the Wolf Alliance took the lead in launching an attack, and rushed towards the Xingyu Club with red eyes. A gang fight kicked off. The Wolf Alliance launched an attack, and the Xingyu Club was also unwilling to be outdone, waving their weapons and rushing forward. There were more than 1,000 people on both sides, and the battle was like a small battlefield. The shouts, screams, and wails gathered together, interweaving into a tragic picture. Hearing the fighting outside, the residents of the old street locked their doors and shivered in their quilts. Soldiers against soldiers, generals against generals. The high-level people of the Xingyu Club and the Wolf Alliance also fought together. The more they fought, the more shocked the people on the Xingyu Club side were. They found that the guys on the opposite side were all fighting desperately. Kill 1,000 enemies, lose 800 of their own. The leaders of both sides were naturally fighting. Clang. After a sound of metal clashing, the two moved away for a distance. Sha Qingqiu's hand holding the tang sword was shaking slightly. She was extremely shocked. She didn't expect the new leader to be so strong. The breath is steady, the foundation is solid, it doesn't look like he just broke through the dark energy. Of course she knew about the news that the leader of the Wolf Alliance was replaced. At that time, she was still feeling lucky that the war was about to start, and the Wolf Alliance suddenly changed its leader. There will definitely be turmoil at that time, and the strength of the Wolf Alliance will be reduced. But looking at the way the Wolf Alliance is killing people, its strength has not only not decreased, but has become stronger. This new leader is not a simple person either. His strength is not weaker than hers, and the madness on his face and the bloodthirstiness in his eyes made her a little scared. While she was frightened, she was also a little lucky. She didn't know that the Wolf Alliance had two dark energy masters before. If Yi Yuan hadn't rebelled and taken the position, their Xingyu club would have died. Before she thought for long, Yi Yuan rushed over again, waving the machete in the middle. She was too fast, Sha Qingqiu couldn't dodge in time, and could only pick up the knife to defend. Clang! The two knives collided, and sparks flew everywhere. This attack was very powerful, and Sha Qingqiu felt his hands go weak. Suddenly, her eyes were stern. She kicked Yi Yuan's lower abdomen fiercely. Unexpectedly, Yi Yuan did not dodge and was kicked by her. Resisting the explosion of the hidden power in her body, Yi Yuan grabbed her foot and threw it out fiercely. Boom! Sha Qingqiu was smashed into the wall fiercely and almost got out. Her expression was cold and her mood became heavier. She felt that Yi Yuan in front of her was a madman. This was a completely injury for injury fighting style. Afterwards, the two fought for dozens of rounds. Both of them were injured, but on the surface, Yi Yuan's injury was more serious. And Sha Qingqiu just looked a little embarrassed. Taking advantage of this gap, she took the time to look around. Both sides' younger brothers were killed and injured. Seeing her subordinates fall in front of her one by one, her face was ugly. This won't work. Sooner or later, they will be exhausted to death. We must fight quickly. Her mind raced and her eyes were fierce. As soon as he stepped on the ground, he flew towards Yi Yuan like an arrow. The two fought fiercely again. Suddenly, Sha Qingqiu found a flaw in Yi Yuan and chopped it down with a knife. At the critical moment, Yi Yuan twisted his waist and dodged. Although he avoided the vital point, he was hit in the lower abdomen by a knife, cutting his flesh. After the hit, Sha Qingqiu didn't have time to be happy, and she saw the evil smile on Yi Yuan's face from the corner of her eye. Her heart clicked. A strong sense of crisis surged in her heart. Yi Yuan swung the machete backhand, aiming directly at her neck. The knife came too fast and too suddenly, and her tang knife couldn't be retracted. It seemed that there was only one ending waiting for her. That was death. At this time, Sha Qingqiu suddenly realized. It was not that Yi Yuan had a flaw, but that he deliberately showed it to her. She was even more frightened. This guy is really desperate. Seeing the long knife getting closer and closer, Sha Qingqiu's heart calmed down. Just when she thought she was going to die, the long knife stopped when it was only a few centimeters away from her neck. Sha Qingqiu was stunned. At this moment, Yi Yuan drew the knife and changed hands, and slapped a certain acupuncture point on her body. Then, Sha Qingqiu felt a sense of weakness coming from her body. She no longer had the strength to fight. But she was still deeply puzzled. Why? Yi Yuan fought hard to get the opportunity to make that knife. That knife could obviously kill her, why didn't it fall? You are the master's prey, how can I kill you? Yi Yuan pulled off a piece of cloth from her trouser leg and wrapped the wound to stop the bleeding. When she talked about the master, her face was respectful and fanatical. Sha Qingqiu was stunned, and then her eyes became complicated. She knew who the master was in the other person's mouth, who else could it be besides Shu Liang? I've heard Shu Liang say this before. At this time, she also figured out why Yi Yuan had several opportunities to kill her before, but didn't do it. Even now, she didn't have any injuries. It turned out that she was Shu Liang's prey. It seems that she should thank Shu Liang. Sha Qingqiu smiled bitterly in her heart. This gang fight ended with her defeat. The younger brothers on both sides were still normal, and they fought back and forth. The middle and high-level members of Xingyu Club were terrified. They felt that the other side was not a human, but a madman. They were the kind who didn't care about their lives. After the battle, the high-level members of the Wolf League also breathed a sigh of relief. If they continued to fight, they would really have to exchange their lives for theirs. "Come with me, the master wants to see you," Yi Yuan said lightly when she came to the dazed Sha Qingqiu. Sha Qingqiu came back to her senses and knew what Shu Liang meant by looking for her. She lost this game, and lost it completely. Although she was a little reluctant, she decided to meet him. After instructing her younger brothers to clean up the mess, she followed Yi Yuan and went to a tall building not far away. When she arrived at the tall building, Sha Qingqiu saw Shu Liang. At the same time, she also noticed the surrounding scene. From here, she could see the scene of their fight just now. It turned out that he had been watching the show. No. It should be said that everyone in the Xingyu Club and the Wolf Alliance were treated as monkeys for the show. Shu Liang put down the goblet, turned around slowly, with a faint smile on his face. "We meet again. This game, you lost." Sha Qingqiu opened her mouth, trying to quibble, but she didn't know what to say. Say Shu Liang doesn't follow the rules. When he was betting on the game before, he said that he would not personally or send people to participate in the game. He did this. Say he doesn't follow the ethics of martial arts, and the trap for framing Lin Haojin has not been released yet, causing his side to lose a general. But this was all done by the Wolf Alliance, and there is no evidence that he secretly instructed it. And it didn't say at the time that the enemy's combat power could not be consumed. It can only be said that not getting rid of their high-level people was already considered as Shu Liang's mercy. If you want to blame yourself for being too impatient at the time and not considering the details. Are you going to default on your debt? Shu Liang said lightly, not caring about what she thought. You have to know whether I am discussing with you or not. I am notifying you. As his voice fell, the red-clothed man beside him burst out with momentum. Overwhelmingly crushed Sha Qingqiu. Under this terrifying murderous aura, the air around seemed to stagnate. She felt difficulty breathing and looked at the red-clothed man with horror. This breath was definitely the peak of dark energy. Such a being was willing to be a bodyguard of Shu Liang, and the madman beside him also surrendered to Shu Liang. Sha Qingqiu pursed her lips, her face struggling. At this time, Shu Liang's voice sounded again. Since you want to default, there is no need for Xingyu Club to exist anymore. No. Hearing this, Sha Qingqiu immediately became anxious. Xingyu Club was her hard work for 3 years, how could she tolerate it being destroyed because of herself? She slowly lowered her head. I am willing to surrender. After saying that, a sense of shame surged in her heart. She was originally a strong character, when had she ever said such words to anyone? Suddenly, she felt a pain in her knee joints, and the whole person knelt down uncontrollably. Yi Yuan's cold voice came from the side. To surrender, you must look like you surrender. Such a surrender is not sincere at first glance. Shu Liang is too lazy to check her favorability. Now he wants an attitude. Lu Ruolin is a lesson learned from the past. He has plenty of experience in dealing with such a heroine. However, this game did allow him to discover a talent. He likes Yi Yuan more and more. She is smart in doing things, unlike other supporting characters who are reckless and keep serving the protagonist. Needless to say, she is loyal. If it was said that she surrendered to him because of admiration before. After using mind control, she will never betray. In the past, he just treated her as a chess piece, but now he has the intention to cultivate her. Immediately, Shu Liang waved to her. Seeing this, Yi Yuan came to him happily, knelt on her knees, and gently rested her head on his legs. Her eyes were sparkling, looking forward to that warm big hand. Shu Liang paid attention to her injuries, and the simple treatment did not stop the bleeding, and traces of blood seeped out. He frowned, turned his wrist, and a fragrant pill appeared in his hand. Open your mouth. Hearing Shu Liang's order, Yi Yuan opened her mouth without hesitation. The pill melted in her mouth, and the medicinal power flowed through her limbs and bones, and she felt warm all over. Then, she felt a layer of dirt seeping out of the surface of her skin, and heard Shu Liang's voice in her ears. Go wash. Swish. Yi Yuan disappeared quickly in a flash. When she came out again, it was half an hour later. At this moment, she was full of strength, and it seemed that the world became clearer. Her injuries disappeared without a trace, and even no scars were left. Her skin became smooth and delicate, like white jade, and her appearance was even better. Not only that, she had just broken through not long ago, and now she broke through again, reaching the middle stage of dark energy. At this moment, if she fought with Sha Qingqiu again, she would be able to subdue him in just a few rounds. It was so amazing. It was unbelievable that such a change was brought about by a small pill. She felt more and more grateful and admired Shu Liang. Swish, swish, swish. 3 eyes fell on her. Shu Liang had a calm expression. Although it was not as perfect as the systematic marrow cleansing and meridian cutting, it was already very good for a marrow cleansing pill to have such an effect. Feeling Yi Yuan's realm breakthrough, Hong Yi's eyes sparkled with excitement. She had reached the peak of dark energy for many years. If she could get the master to give her a pill. For a moment, she looked at Shu Liang with a fiery look, expecting him to assign her a task. If Hong Yi was Shu Liang's man, she could still remain calm. Sha Qingqiu was so shocked that she couldn't speak. Originally, she took over Yi Yuan's position, kneeling in front of him, lying on Shu Liang's legs, feeling the treatment like petting a cat. At this moment, she raised her head and looked at Yi Yuan, her eyes full of disbelief. Her mouth opened into an "oh" shape, and she really wanted to stuff something in it. Yi Yuan's skin improved, and her appearance improved, which was secondary. She knew Yi Yuan's injuries best, and she took a pill and healed completely, without even a scar. How is this possible? It's totally unscientific. She turned her head and looked at Shu Liang, expecting him to give an answer. However, Shu Liang didn't intend to pay attention to her at all, just smiled and touched his head. After accepting Yi Yuan's thanks, Shu Liang left with Hong Yi. He didn't intend to enjoy the spoils for the time being. The time and place were not suitable. Tonight, both Xingyu Club and Wolf League had many deaths, and they needed to deal with many things. When Sha Qingqiu finished dealing with everything, it would be time for him to inspect the goods. The Underworld handled these things in a simple and rough manner. Give some subsidies, appease the subordinates, and it will be done in a few days. Shu Liang could wait for a few days, and took this time to capture the heroine. During this period, he also thought about how to deal with this Underworld queen. What kind of uniform should she wear? Black silk, dress, cheongsam, or more in line with her queen's temperament? How about a contrast and let her wear women's clothes? Let the queen be a maid. That scene should be very interesting. Chapter 71. While Xingyuehui and Wolf League were dealing with the aftermath, Shu Liang did not forget his own strategy plan. Ding! Should Zhang Yan be brought into the family? Let her become one of the family members. Looking at the beautiful woman who had fainted beside him, a little red plum blossom was very conspicuous on the white quilt. Shu Liang raised his eyebrows. This is a female protagonist he has known for a short time. She is a teacher by profession. She was transferred from a remote area a month ago and was preparing to teach at Magic City University. After being discovered by him accidentally, he pretended to meet her by chance and began to get closer. Zhang Yan had just arrived and was unfamiliar with the place. She was full of curiosity and a little confused about the big city of Magic City. At this time, Shu Liang suddenly appeared. He took her to visit the scenery of various places, and soon she became familiar with this big city, which moved her heart. Not only that, when he heard that she was about to come to Magic City to teach, Shu Liang also arranged a house in the university town. Of course she refused to accept it, but Shu Liang forced the key to her on the grounds of pursuing her. In addition, after spending some time together, she also had a good impression of Shu Liang. His behavior was elegant and easygoing, making people want to get close to him. He was also knowledgeable and talented. Although she was a university teacher, she was not much better than a student in front of Shu Liang. Sometimes she had to ask him questions that she didn't understand. Not to mention his appearance and background. In terms of appearance, it's not an exaggeration to say that he is the national husband. Background. You can tell from the fact that he bought a house in the prime location of the university town with just one phone call. She has been hesitating and worried about Shu Liang's pursuit these days. She didn't know whether to agree or not. What made her feel wrong was that Shu Liang was too perfect. How could such a perfect man fall in love with herself, a Cinderella? She was very clear about her position. However, tonight, she had a candlelight dinner with Shu Liang and then confessed to her. She didn't have the courage to refuse after all. What happened next was a matter of course. The most precious thing was taken away, and she felt unprecedented fulfillment. She also decided on this man. But she was soon confused. What kind of storm is this? Isn't it said that there are only oxen that can be damaged, but not plowed land? No one explained to her, so she could only fall asleep in confusion. Shu Liang retracted his gaze and chose, yes, without hesitation. Ding! Congratulations to the host, family member +1, you have gained immunity to all poisons. Invulnerable to all poisons. Shu Liang's heart moved. This is a good passive buff. With his strength, he is not afraid of most enemies. Even if there is an existence that he cannot defeat, there is still the Shu family behind him. I am not afraid of you coming openly or secretly. In fact, even if it is poison. He has magical medical skills, and there is no poison in this world that can kill him. Of course, the premise is that he discovers it in advance or gives him time to treat it. But some poisons will kill you once you are hit. If you are hit by accident, you will not have time to give you acupuncture and prepare antidotes. Being immune to all poisons, it was like adding a safety protection to him. In a good mood, Shu Liang picked up his phone and read the information about Yi Zhan. Yi Zhan was now completely in the mentality of a gambler, hoping to make a profit by speculating in stocks. But how could Shu Liang give him a chance? He borrowed more than 9 million, plus mortgaged his house and small factory, and invested more than 10 million in the stock market. As a result, it was completed in just 2 days. Ding! Yi Zhan's mentality collapsed, villain value +888. Ding! Yi Zhan felt desperate, villain value +999. Yi Zhan was completely stupid. Until now, he still didn't believe what happened. Before investing money in the stock market, he had made all preparations and selected some large foreign companies. These companies have at least 10 billion yuan in assets, and their stocks have been on an upward trend. Although the rise is not large, it is very stable. Investing 10 million in it will not lose money anyway. However, the stocks that he thought would not lose money began to fall not long after he invested in them. Not long after, those companies declared bankruptcy. Yi Zhan was very upset with Sister Li. It was fine before, but his investment fell. What kind of disaster star was reincarnated? He had thought that he was cheated and fell into the legendary pig-killing scam. But, what happened to several large companies going bankrupt? Which scammer has such ability? Well, even if there is one. Would a company worth hundreds of billions or even hundreds of billions go bankrupt just because of him, a stockholder with tens of millions of shares? He didn't know that it was because of him that those companies were targeted and went bankrupt. Now, the reality is in front of him. He mortgaged his house and factory. He is truly bankrupt. This is not what makes Yi Zhan most desperate. The news of his stock market bankruptcy was spread by someone. All the people who borrowed money from him before came to him in droves and asked him to pay back the money. What a prodigal son. But 50 million is money that I can't earn in several lifetimes, and you squandered it all in a few days. Anyway, I don't care. I lent you half of our family property. You must pay me back. What a sin. My 1 million, 1 million. Yi Zhan, you really deserve to die. You'd better return my 200,000 to me, otherwise don't blame me for not being considerate of my classmates. Quote. This is the scene at Yi Zhan's home now. There are at least dozens of people who came to collect debts, and they surrounded the house one by one. Yi Zhan lay on the ground, his eyes were dull, and his face was full of doubts about life. Gotcha. Just as everyone was denouncing Yi Zhan together, the door was opened from the outside. The only one who had the key at home was Yi's father. Yi Zhan sat up suddenly. Oh no, what if my father knew about this? He was so angry that he vomited blood before, and now he must die on the spot. He wanted to stop it, but it was too late, someone had already opened the door. Seeing the scene inside the house, Yi's father was stunned. He had been hospitalized these days, and Yi Zhan would come to bring him food every day. The meticulous care gradually dissipated his original anger. It was gone if the 50 million was gone, just as if there was no demolition. With this AQ spirit, he felt better. Seeing that Yizan didn't come to the hospital today, he simply left the hospital. Unexpectedly, he saw so many people at home just after returning home. Seeing Yi's father, a relative hurriedly began to complain, asking him to pay back the money in both open and covert ways. After knowing that he was Yizan's father, a group of friends and classmates also began to talk about it. Yi's father was stunned, pointing at Yizan with trembling fingers, and his voice trembled. What, you borrowed several million from them and lost money on stock speculation? You also mortgaged the house and factory at home. You, rebellious son. In the blink of an eye, 3 days have passed. Sha Qingqiu sat on the sofa a little tired. During these 3 days, she not only dealt with the funeral affairs, but also comforted the people under her control. The last time they fought against the Wolf Alliance, their spirits were shattered. Those are really werewolves, fighting each other to the death. She was also very confused, and it was not until the undercover agent assigned to the Wolf League sent back the news that she finally knew the answer. It turned out that it was the newly appointed alliance leader who kidnapped all the family members of the middle and high-level people. Only then did they have to fight to the death. After receiving this result, Sha Qingqiu was extremely shocked. That woman's madness simply refreshed her understanding. Her loyalty to Xu Liang also scares her. In order for Xu Liang to win this game, he has reached the point of using any means necessary. Thinking of Xu Liang, Sha Qingqiu suddenly felt confused. She couldn't help but think of the night when she was kneeling on the ground. Xu Liang waved to her, she knelt over, lay on her lap and had her head touched. The feeling of being treated like a pet made her ashamed. Will he become Xu Liang's pet in the future? Can't escape from his grasp. Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle bells. The sudden ringing of her cell phone startled her. Picking it up and looking at it, she suddenly froze on the spot. Caller ID, Xu Liang. There was no way to hide. Taking a deep breath, Sha Qingqiu pressed the answer button. Wait for me at home. The voice is as gentle as jade, and hearing it makes you feel like you are bathed in the spring breeze. People can't help but think that the opposite person is definitely a handsome and troubled young man. However, Sha Qingqiu had no such thoughts. She only felt chilled. She knew why Xu Liang didn't touch her 3 days ago. That was time left for her to deal with the aftermath. Now that it's done, I'll naturally come to find her. Sha Qingqiu has been in a state of hesitation since Xu Liang called. I was thinking wildly about what posture Xu Liang would use later. Laugh. The sound of brakes coming from outside the villa woke her up, and she quickly came to the door to take a look. Sure enough, I saw the bodyguard at the peak of his strength coming to the back seat and opening the door. Xu Liang's nightmare-like figure came into view. She quickly looked around. Fortunately, this is a single-family villa and there are no residents around it. Xu, Mr. Xu. Seeing that Xu Liang had arrived, Sha Qingqiu hesitated a little, not knowing what to say. Xu Liang raised his eyebrows. Give you a chance to reorganize your language. Sha Qingqiu was stunned for a moment. After he came to his senses, he suppressed his shame and said, Owner. Only then did Xu Liang smile. He didn't regard himself as an outsider at all and walked directly into the villa. After taking a look at the surrounding layout, the style is simple and decorated with swords, guns and swords, giving it a dark queen style. Sitting down on the sofa, he looked at the underworld queen with interest. The face is delicate and beautiful, and the expressionless look gives people a cold feeling. It just so happens that her figure is so curvy and so good that every move she makes is eye-catching and charming. The face of an angel and the figure of a devil are the best ways to describe her. Then he noticed her clothes and couldn't help but frown. She was wearing a smart outfit at this time, covering up a lot of her scenery. From the moment he walked in, Sha Qingqiu had been paying attention to Xu Liang's every move. Seeing him frown, I couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. Now she still has the image of a high-spirited, cold and arrogant queen in front of her younger brother. Just like the young daughter-in-law who did something wrong in ancient times and waited for her husband to be punished. He also saw Xu Liang's brows unfurling and a faint smile appearing on the corner of his mouth. A bad premonition surged in her heart. Really? The next moment, I heard Xu Liang say, I don't like this dress of yours, go and change it. Sha Qingqiu's heart sank. She knew how attractive she was wearing those provocative clothes. These days, she has been wearing fancy clothes, just hoping that Shu Liang will let her go when he sees her like this. But, she was obviously overthinking it. Just when she was about to change clothes, she was stopped by Shu Liang again. The clothes are ready for you. Sha Qingqiu was confused and didn't understand what Shu Liang meant. But she soon found out. Then she saw Hong Yi leaving and coming back, holding a bag of things in his hand and handing it to her. She took it blankly and opened it to see that it was full of clothes. What do you say about these clothes? Just one look at it can make people blush. Black silk, white silk, meat silk, hollow, pattern, conjoined. There is also lace interest, purple, white, black, just a few pieces of fabric. There are also JK uniforms, white pleated skirts, dresses, maid outfits. What stands out are 3 words, short, thin and revealing. Sha Qingqiu was dazzled by the sight, dizzy and flushed. At this moment, Shu Liang's devilish voice came again. Choose one yourself. Sha Qingqiu turned back in disbelief. What? Shu Liang actually asked her to choose one from here. These clothes, she had never worn them before. Now she was wearing them for the first time, and she had to show them to a man. Seeing her complexion change and her tangled expression, Shu Liang had a playful expression. It seemed that this underworld queen had not experienced it yet, so the next training would surely be very interesting. What, you don't want to? Sha Qingqiu trembled and silently took the bag into the house. When she appeared again, she was wearing a maid outfit. Compared to those miniskirts, this one was more acceptable to her. It just felt bad. Outside, she always did things in a swift and decisive manner, and everyone called her the queen. Now she was wearing a maid outfit, which made her feel very uncomfortable. However, her nightmare had just begun. Not only did she wear a dress, but Shu Liang also asked her to cook, massage, and do things that maids would do. It is called self-cultivation of a maid. Seeing the underworld queen wearing a maid outfit and busying herself in the kitchen as a cook, Shu Liang smiled slightly. Did she think she could get away with it by choosing a maid outfit? She was still too naive. How could the gifts he asked people to prepare be wasted? She wore a maid outfit during the day, and changed into those at night, transforming into a charming queen. In the kitchen, Sha Qingqiu was cooking. She didn't know that she had been arranged clearly. She was certainly familiar with the pots and pans in front of her. She used to cook by herself when she was alone. But since she founded the Xingyu Club and became the president, she has never cooked. She was usually busy, so she hired a nanny to cook. For several years, she had never cooked for herself, and now she had to cook for a man. She was still like a maid serving her master. Sha Qingqiu's mentality was a little broken. Who made her lose the game? She could only accept her fate. An hour later, a sumptuous lunch was ready. It looks delicious, and should taste good. Shu Liang came to the table, glanced at Sha Qingqiu standing beside him, and raised his eyebrows. Sha Qingqiu was immediately entangled when she saw this. Shu Liang's meaning was very clear. She was a little reluctant to let her go over to accompany him. Suddenly, her eyes widened. Seeing Shu Liang raised his hand. The red-clothed girl hiding in the dark trembled, remembering the fear of being dominated by him. Shall be warned. Sha Qingqiu was a little frightened, and hurriedly came to sit down beside her obediently. A maid, even when eating, she must let the master enjoy the ultimate experience. Sha Qingqiu picked up the chopsticks and put the dishes into Shu Liang's bowl. Who knew that Shu Liang reached out and hugged her into his arms, and frivolous words rang out. I want you to feed me. Sha Qingqiu had no choice but to pick up the bowl and chopsticks and put them to Shu Liang's mouth. Then she enjoyed herself like an emperor. Holding the beauty in his arms, feeling the warmth and softness of her, the food was fed directly to his mouth, and the wine was also fed orally. However, most of it was drunk by Sha Qingqiu herself, and Shu Liang only tasted it lightly. The meal was over. Even Sha Qingqiu, who had the strength of dark energy, felt weak all over at this time, and her pretty face was full of blush. I don't know if it was because of shame, anger, or drunkenness. Go make me a cup of tea. Sha Qingqiu had just come back from washing the dishes, and Shu Liang ordered again. She clenched her fists, and finally let go powerlessly, and took out the precious tea leaves. This is her own home, how did Shu Liang become the owner here? And she was just a little maid. Finally, the tea was brewed and brought to him, and Shu Liang took a sip. The taste was naturally incomparable to what he brewed, and it could only be said to be barely acceptable. Looking at the distraught Sha Qingqiu, Shu Liang's eyes flashed. Today he came here to abuse the heroine. How could he let her have some free time? As the saying goes, it's fun to abuse the heroine for a while, and it's fun to abuse her all the time. Especially this heroine, she looks cold and arrogant, and has the temperament of a queen. At this time, she has to flatter and do her job as a maid, which makes her feel super doubled. He had an idea in his mind. My shoulders are a little sore, give me a massage. Sha Qingqiu was a little confused. Looking around, she was the only one at the scene. She was a little unbelievable. You want me to give you a massage? As soon as the words fell, the whip fell, followed by a sound of sucking cold air. She hurriedly said anxiously, I don't know how to do it. No, Shu Liang raised his eyebrows. No, don't you know how to learn? Sha Qingqiu was speechless. Swish. Suddenly, a booklet was thrown over, and she knew it was the red-clothed girl hiding in the dark. She felt a little dizzy when she picked up the booklet. It was written on it. Self-cultivation of a maid. As a maid, you must make the master happy physically and mentally. All orders from the master must be obeyed. Maid's essential skills: washing and cooking, wake-up service, warming the bed, 18 postures. Sha Qingqiu's face turned black. This really treated her as a maid. An hour later, Sha Qingqiu stood behind Shu Liang and massaged him obediently. Her heart was broken. She was the queen. When had she ever massaged anyone, especially a man? An afternoon passed quickly. Of course, this was for Shu Liang. Sha Qingqiu felt like she was spending a year. There was never a time when she hoped that this torment would pass quickly. Shu Liang asked her to make tea when he was thirsty. When he was hungry, he asked her to peel fruit and feed it mouthful by mouthful. When she wanted to drink juice, she turned into a juicer. Physical fatigue was nothing, it was mainly the torment in her heart. She was beaten to a pulp in the afternoon. If she couldn't beat Shu Liang, if Shu Liang could destroy the Xingyu society with just one sentence, she would definitely fight to the death. This is exactly what Shu Liang wanted. It is to make her resist in her heart, but she has to do it. Until she gradually adapts to this identity and finally gives in. At this moment, the sky has darkened. The moonlight sprinkles on the earth, adding a touch of color to the silent night. Shu Liang came to the courtyard and sat on the rocking chair. While sipping tea, admiring the night sky, and enjoying the massage from the maid, it is so leisurely. Time passed little by little. Shu Liang stood up and stretched. After a day of rest, it is time to start the night life. Shu Liang's eyes fell on Sha Qingqiu, who was dressed in a maid outfit. Go take a bath. I'll take you horseback riding today. Wear the clothes I brought you. Sha Qingqiu's heart trembled. She knew this moment would come sooner or later. But when it really came, she couldn't help but feel a little sad. She was the helmsman of the Xingyu Club. So what if she was called the queen of the underworld? In Shu Liang's eyes, wasn't she still a plaything? Knowing that she couldn't resist, she walked into the bathroom obediently. When she came out again, the maid outfit had been changed, replaced by a thin shirt, a miniskirt, black stockings. It must be said that Hong Yi knows how to pick clothes. When Sha Qingqiu wore this outfit, the Dark Queen's temperament was fully reflected. After a playful look for a while, Shu Liang waved his hand, and Sha Qingqiu knelt directly. The whole room was full of spring scenery, unknown to outsiders. The moon seemed to be shy and hid in the clouds. The next day, Sha Qingqiu felt an itch in her nose and slowly opened her eyes. What caught her eyes was Shu Liang holding a bunch of her hair and teasing her. She was angry. Don't you know how long it was last night? It was early in the morning, and the sky was bright. It was her first time. He was so crazy and not a human being. Now was the time when she needed to rest and recover, but Shu Liang deliberately woke her up. It was too bad. Don't sleep, it's noon, go cook. Hearing Shu Liang's words, Sha Qingqiu woke up immediately, with an unbelievable look on her face. It was a problem whether she could get up in this state, and she was asked to cook. Do you know what it means to be gentle and considerate to women? No, maybe in Shu Liang's heart, there is no such 4 words. What, is there a problem? Shu Liang raised his eyebrows. Sha Qingqiu had no choice but to get up slowly. Facts prove that. People are forced to do things. Just now she looked weak, but now she's up, isn't she? Looking at her staggering back, Shu Liang's eyes lit up with a smile. Just as he thought, this kind of character heroine can't fall in love with her over time. After one night, the good impression is always negative. But he has a lot of ways to deal with such a heroine, and he needs to take it slowly. After eating home-cooked meals, it's also interesting to have a delicacy like lu ruolin occasionally, isn't it? Next, Shu Liang stayed at Sha Qingqiu's house for 2 or 3 days. Served as a maid during the day and a queen at night. Just when he was planning to stay here for a few more days and take down the queen of the underworld in one fell swoop, a message came. It turned out that Ren Shanshan brought her sister. I remember he said, as a brother-in-law, I have to give my sister-in-law a gift. In a 5-star hotel, Shu Liang met Ren Shanshan and her sister Ren Feifei. The 2 women are 70% similar, and people can tell at a glance that they are sisters. Ren Shanshan wore black silk high heels, a little makeup, and dressed brightly, looking mature and dignified. She was obviously the elder sister. The younger sister wore canvas shoes, dressed simply, and exuded youthful vitality. The immaturity on her face showed that she was a student and had not yet entered society. At this time, the pair of sisters with different styles stood at the door of the hotel and immediately attracted a lot of attention. Such a beautiful pair of sisters, if they were placed on the same bed, I don't know how cool it would be. That's inevitable. I finally understand why the emperors in ancient times didn't hold court early from then on. If I get one, my ancestors' graves will be filled with smoke. 2. I dare not even think about it. Talking is talking, laughing is laughing, don't make fun of others. Look at your looks, will the beauty like you? A toad wants to eat swan meat. I bet, no one can pursue a goddess like this, let alone sisters together. Quote. Quote. The passers-by had shining eyes and talked a lot. One of them stopped talking before he finished, and the discussion around him gradually weakened. They stared blankly ahead. A Rolls-Royce drove over, and a handsome young man got out of the car. The sisters who were still talking just now smiled and greeted him, and the 3 of them walked into the hotel together. Ah, the facts tell them, there is no beauty that cannot be picked up. If there is, it means that the balance in your card is not enough. As she walked to the hotel, Ren Feifei looked at Shu Liang. Is this her brother-in-law? He looks so handsome and has such a good temperament. She just graduated from high school this year and was admitted to Shanghai University. It just so happens that her sister is here, so she can be taken care of. A few days ago, her sister took her around Shanghai and let her see the prosperity of this big city. Today, her sister said early in the morning that she would bring her to meet her brother-in-law. Of course, she knew that her sister had a boyfriend, and her current manager job was arranged by her brother-in-law. It can be said that, if my sister hadn't found a boyfriend and kept sending money home, their family wouldn't be so well off now. And she wouldn't be able to go to such a good university. Ren Feifei was very grateful to this brother-in-law who changed their family. She was also looking forward to meeting them today. Now that she had met him, it was beyond her expectations. Her brother-in-law was too perfect. Looking at Shu Liang's handsome profile, she couldn't help but have an idea in her mind. It would be great if he wasn't my sister's boyfriend. Then, I would have a chance. This idea scared her when it came up, and she quickly shook her head to get rid of the distracting thoughts. How could I compete with my sister for a boyfriend? Although Shu Liang was walking forward, he had a full view of Ren Feifei's performance, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. It seems that this sister-in-law is easy to deal with. As for Ren Shanshan being the heroine, her sister is also, Shu Liang is not surprised. As for urban Xiaobaiwen, there are too many of this type. After arriving at the reserved seat and signaling, the waiter began to serve the food. Feifei, this is the boyfriend I've been telling you about, haven't you always wanted to meet him? Ren Shanshan began to introduce him, and then looked at Shu Liang. Brother Liang, this is my sister Ren Feifei. Hello, I've heard Shanshan talk about you a long time ago. Shu Liang smiled and stretched out his hand. The smile on his face made people feel friendly, and his voice sounded like a spring breeze. Ren Feifei was a little dazed. Then she reacted and quickly stretched out her hand to shake it. Sister. Hello, brother-in-law. Shu Liang didn't let her change the name. This is more interesting, isn't it? As they talked, exquisite dishes were served, and Ren Feifei was a little dazzled. As a girl from the countryside, where had she seen such delicious food, let alone eaten it? I thought that the food my sister took her to eat 2 days ago was the most delicious, but it was far inferior to these dishes. What are you standing there for? Don't be polite. Seeing that the two girls were indifferent, Shu Liang picked up the chopsticks first. The dishes in front of her were all very exquisite, and Ren Feifei didn't know which dish to pick for a moment. It was still her sister Ren Shanshan who was considerate and added a piece of fish for her. After eating it, Ren Feifei's eyes lit up and she felt it was extremely delicious. After the meal, Ren Feifei was still a little reluctant. But she was very sensible and didn't eat too much. I can't leave a bad impression on my brother-in-law. Then, the three of them walked out of the hotel together. Ren Feifei asked her sister in a low voice. The food here is delicious. Let's come here every day in the future. Ren Shanshan rolled her eyes beautifully. It's delicious, but the meal just now cost more than 100,000 yuan. I'll give you another chance to organize your words. Ren Feifei exclaimed, shocked and speechless. A meal cost hundreds of thousands, which was unimaginable. She knew that her brother-in-law's family was rich, but she didn't expect that they were so rich. The image of her brother-in-law gradually became tall and majestic in her heart. After leaving the hotel, Shu Liang seemed to have just discovered Ren Feifei's clothes, and looked at Ren Shanshan with a complaining look. How can you be a sister? My sister finally came here, but you didn't buy some new clothes. Ren Feifei hurriedly explained for her sister. My sister bought it for me, this is what my sister bought for me. As she said that, she also pointed to the clothes on her body. White short-sleeved shirts and blue jeans are full of youthful atmosphere. How can this be done? Feifei is about to go to college, and what she wears will affect her image in the hearts of her classmates. Brother-in-law will take you to buy clothes. Shu Liang waved his hand and made such a straightforward decision. Ren Shanshan was a little embarrassed. It's not that she lacks this little money. Since she followed Shu Liang, she is now the company's financial manager and has no shortage of money to spend. She just thought that her sister was just in college and shouldn't spend money lavishly. Students should act like students. But since Shu Liang said so, she had no choice but to agree. Afterwards, Shu Liang took the two girls to a world-famous women's clothing store. Choose whatever clothes you want to buy, brother-in-law will pay. The dazzling array of clothes inside dazzled Ren Feifei. Since it was Shu Liang's idea, Ren Shanshan didn't act pretentiously and took her sister to choose clothes. As expected of the heroine, Ren Feifei dressed up just as well as her sister. Finally, she picked a few sets of clothes and packed them. When the waiter quoted the price, Ren Feifei was stunned. Only 5 or 6 sets of clothes were worth more than 300,000 yuan. Ren Shanshan was about to swipe the card, but was stopped by Shu Liang. Today is the first time I meet Feifei, so I'll pay the bill. As he said, he took out the black gold card. The waiter saw this and immediately became respectful to the few people. After swiping the card quickly, she handed it to Shu Liang respectfully, and couldn't help but sigh in her heart. No wonder she can enjoy this pair of top-notch sisters. After leaving the clothing store, Ren Feifei's head was still a little dizzy, and she felt that the clothes in her hands were heavy. After coming to her senses, she hurriedly said to Shu Liang, "Brother-in-law, this is too expensive, I can't take it." "What's expensive or not, clothes are for wearing." Shu Liang pretended to be unhappy. "This is a gift between us. If you don't accept it, you are not satisfied with me as your brother-in-law." Ren Feifei waved her hand quickly. "No. Brother-in-law, you are very good. Then I will accept it, thank you brother-in-law. By the way, don't thank me in a hurry." As if thinking of something, Shu Liang took out a gold card. "There is 1 million in it. Buy whatever you need in the future. Tell me if you don't have enough money." Shu Liang started to use money to win favor. These heroines are not casual women. Not to mention 1 million, even if you offer them 10 million or 100 million to sleep with you, they won't agree. But if you spend 1 million on them, they will be very grateful to you and their favorability will increase. This amount of money is nothing to Shu Liang, and using it to improve the favorability of the heroine is completely a waste of money. In fact, the heroine who can improve the favorability by spending money is the easiest to conquer. With some of his methods, it will take only a few days to bring her into the family. This is why he has conquered nearly 20 heroines in just half a year. The really tricky ones are the heroines who are not short of money. For example, Chen Zhangjia, Sha Qingqiu, and Lin Hao's third sister Dongfang Xuanyan. Conquering them requires corresponding methods. Chen Zhangjia has been conquered, Sha Qingqiu is already in the bag, and Dongfang Xuanyan is just about to break the window paper. Tisk. Unknowingly, Lin Hao's three sisters are about to be taken down by him. Looking at the gold card in front of her, Ren Feifei was a little at a loss, and could only look to her sister for help. Ren Shanshan nodded to her. I couldn't help but sigh in my heart. How could she not understand what Shu Liang meant? However, she knew Shu Liang very well, and they knew each other well. Except for the fact that there were more than 100 million women, she was excellent and perfect in all aspects. Becoming his woman, there is no need to worry about the future. One sentence can help you get all the work done, or sit in a high position. An idea suddenly popped up in her mind. Shu Liang has many women, and she has no advantage among them. To get more favor, you have to be different. Maybe, it's not bad to have a sister join. After Ren Feifei took the card, Shu Liang smiled, and his smile was meaningful. You can tell from the look in her eyes when she looked at him. This heroine has begun to fall gradually. Suddenly, he noticed a malicious gaze and frowned. At the end of the street, a figure was staring at them. Upon closer inspection, it was Lin Hao. With a disdainful smile, Shu Liang greeted the sisters and planned to go somewhere else to have a look. In the distance, watching the figures of Shu Liang and the pair of sisters gradually disappear, Lin Hao clenched his fists and gnashed his teeth with hatred. After being framed by the hit and run, he was taken back to the police station. Fortunately, the matter was controversial and not as bad as the previous break into the Shu group to kill Shu Liang. He was not locked up in a small dark room. He did not meet that devilish policewoman. But because he beat people, including an old man, the matter was more complicated. If he wants to get out, he must hire a lawyer to sue. Although Xing Yuehui helped him smooth things over, he didn't get out of the detention center until today. Unexpectedly, he saw Shu Liang with a pair of sisters as soon as he got out. He knew what the relationship between the three of them was without having to guess. He had only been in prison for a few days, and Shu Liang had managed to get a pair of top-notch sisters. He was simply envious and jealous. No, he should feel pity for the women who were deceived by Shu Liang and be angry at them for not fighting. At the same time, he felt extremely heartbroken when he thought that the eldest sister was one of them. Elder sister, wait for me, I will soon let you see Shu Liang's true face. He held the phone in his hand with a firm look in his eyes. Just now, when he saw Shu Liang with a pair of sisters, he took out his phone and took a photo. The eldest sister was in deep trouble, and he had to show her the evidence. Taking a deep breath, calming down the mood of wanting to go up and kill Shu Liang, Lin Hao immediately walked towards Xing Yuehui. Xing Yuehui, since losing to the Wolf Alliance in the last decisive battle, the atmosphere has been a little depressing. Even the subordinates have become more low-key. Today, Xingyu Club exudes a bit of vitality again. Because the president Sha Qingqiu, who had not been seen for a few days, appeared. The younger brothers breathed a sigh of relief that the president did not abandon them. If they knew that the elder sister and the queen of the underworld they admired in their hearts had been a maid these days and was unlocked by Shu Liang in various postures, I wonder what expression they would have. Sha Qingqiu was patrolling her territory. However, she frowned every few steps, as if there was something unspeakable. Sha Qingqiu gritted her teeth in her heart. 3 whole days. Do you know how she got through these 3 days? It was better during the day. Shu Liang would at least let her do some things that a maid should do. It was different at night, there was really no rest time. Even if she had the strength of dark energy, she couldn't stand such a whipping. Second senior sister. Just when Sha Qingqiu was complaining about Shu Liang in her heart, a familiar voice sounded. Turning around, she saw Lin Hao coming in from outside the door. Seeing him, Sha Qingqiu's face suddenly darkened. She had repeatedly told Lin Hao to be cautious and low-key. But he didn't take it to heart at all, and turned around and got into someone else's trap. If he hadn't been arrested, she wouldn't have ended up like this. Although she also knew that even if Lin Hao didn't fall into the trap, he would be kicked out in other ways. But, after so many grievances, someone has to take the blame. Seeing Lin Hao appear, Sha Qingqiu was immediately furious and said bluntly, "Get out." Ah, the smile that just appeared on Lin Hao's face froze in an instant. Who am I? Where am I? What am I going to do? Lin Hao was confused. The second sister was pretty good to him before. Why did her attitude change after not seeing him for a few days? Things have changed. What happened outside during the days he was in the detention center? Suddenly, his heart clicked. Could it be that the decisive battle with the Wolf League has ended? When he came in before, he felt that the atmosphere of the Xingyu Club was a little wrong. With this thought, he hurriedly asked. Sha Qingqiu did not intend to pay attention to him, and ordered in a cold tone. "Come on, kick him out." Two younger brothers came forward immediately to drag Lin Hao out. How could he not understand Sha Qingqiu's attitude? The decisive battle between the Xingyu Club and the Wolf League ended, and they lost. Lin Hao was lost. A feeling of regret and guilt surged in his heart. The reason was nothing else, he failed Sha Qingqiu's trust. The day before, Sha Qingqiu had repeatedly told him to keep a low profile and not to cause trouble. As a result, he was caught in a simple trap the next day. He had not recovered from his regret until he was dragged out of the door by two younger brothers. Those guys in the Wolf Alliance are really not human. They fight to the death. I avoid them when I see them now. It's not that group of people who are fierce, it's the new leader who is ruthless. He put a knife on the neck of their family members. How can they not fight to the death? Alas, I haven't seen the president for 3 days. I thought he gave up on us. The president should be very angry, right? I saw her face pale today, and she frowned when she walked. Quote. A few younger brothers happened to pass by, and the sound of their conversation reached Lin Hao's ears. Swish! A thunderbolt suddenly appeared, piercing his mind. He suddenly thought of a very serious problem. The decisive battle between Xingyuehui and Wolf League was actually a game between Sha Qingqiu and Shu Liang. Although Sha Qingqiu didn't say what the bet was. But it is not difficult to see from her degree of importance that the bet must be very high. Combined with the fact that he saw Sha Qingqiu staggering just now, there was a little more charm of a young woman between her eyebrows. Lin Hao froze in place. After a long while, he had to accept a fact. That is, his second sister was also taken down by Shu Liang. With his previous record with his fiancée Lu Ruolin and senior sister Chen Zhangjia, he would definitely not be wrong. This explains why Tong Sha Qingqiu was so angry with him. Because he was away, his fiancée was intercepted by Shu Liang and became pregnant. It was because of him that he did not tell the senior sister the true identity of Shu Liang, and watched her fall step by step, and finally became like Shu Liang. It was also because of him that he was careless and fell into the trap, missed the decisive battle between Xingyuehui and Langmeng, and caused the second senior sister to be forced to surrender by Shu Liang. It was all because of himself. Lin Hao squatted on the ground with his head in his arms. Incomparable annoyance, self-blame, and regret surged in his heart. Ding! Lin Hao doubted himself. Villain value plus 999. Ding! Lin Hao's mentality exploded. Villain value plus 1000. Ding! Lin Hao was in a daze, not knowing how he left Xingyu Club. He did not ask for clarification. He was so ashamed that he did not know how to face Sha Qingqiu. He walked aimlessly on the street, and when he came to his senses, he found that he had unknowingly come to Baekyeotang. Thinking of the photos taken at noon, Lin Hao walked into Baekyeotang. After Shu Liang came to accompany her for a day and was unable to get out of bed, Chen Zhangjia returned to her previous mentality. She no longer bothered about how many women Shu Liang had. If Shu Liang only had her as a woman, that would be a torture. She did not want to lie in bed every day. Seeing that the shopkeeper was no longer so indifferent, everyone in Baekyeotang was no longer worried, and they worked more seriously. When Lin Hao came in, Chen Zhangjia was about to go home and happened to meet him. "Why are you here?" she frowned, looking a little unhappy. After Xu Liang ignored her for a few days, she became more dependent on him. She could not let him alienate herself because of Lin Hao. Lin Hao felt a little sad. This is his senior sister, they are from the same family, how could their relationship have reached this point? Thinking of the purpose of his visit, he calmed down and said, "Senior sister, I am here to tell you about Xu Liang's character. He is a scumbag. From what I have seen, there are no less than 4 or 5 women around him, and I don't know how many more there are in secret." Speaking of Xu Liang, Lin Hao was furious and wanted to kill him as soon as possible. Sensing his ill will towards Xu Liang, Chen Zhangjia's face changed and her tone was very cold. "Then what?" Lin Hao was confused. "What then? At this time, shouldn't you be angry and call Xu Liang to scold him, and then say that you are no longer friends?" "It's true, I also took pictures of him with other women." Thinking that the senior sister didn't believe it, he thought of the evidence and hurriedly took it out. Opening the mobile phone album, there are photos of Xu Liang and a pair of sisters. In the photo, the 3 of them are talking and laughing, and their relationship must be unusual. After browsing the photos, Lin Hao looked at Chen Zhangjia again, and she was still so calm. "So, what do you want to express?" Lin Hao was dumbfounded again. This scene, what feels familiar? Remember when he told Lu Ruolin, it was also this performance. She even said that she was willing to be Xu Liang's lover. Does the senior sister also have this idea? Impossible, impossible. He shook his head in his heart, but a bad premonition came up. The next moment, he heard Chen Zhangjia's voice. "Don't do these boring things anymore. I know Brother Liang's affairs better than you. I don't care how many women he has. As long as he has me in his heart, that's enough." After leaving a cold sentence, she strode away. Lin Hao was stunned in the place, unable to come back to his senses for a long time. His face gradually became gloomy, extremely ugly, and he felt worse than eating shit in his heart. As the sky gradually darkened, Lin Hao walked alone on the street, and a sense of loneliness arose spontaneously. He was kicked out of the house by the second senior sister, and the eldest senior sister didn't welcome him. Now he is homeless again. He noticed a familiar car passing by from the corner of his eye. That was Xu Liang's exclusive car. The suppressed anger broke out at this moment, and he immediately wanted to chase him and see if he could find a chance to kill him. Indeed, Xu Liang was very strong and he couldn't beat him. Xu Liang's attainments in medical skills were also better than his. But no one is perfect, everyone has weaknesses. Since he came down the mountain and came to the city, he has been living in Xu Liang's shadow and has forgotten his own skills. He also knows medical skills, and he knows several highly toxic formulas. Colorless and tasteless, as long as you are poisoned, you will bleed from all 7 orifices and die. Even if Xu Liang's medical skills are amazing, it's useless. Immediately, Lin Hao stopped a passing taxi. "Master, catch up with that car." Wow, such an anxious tone. The master secretly thought that a fat sheep had come to the door, and quickly locked the car door to prevent the fat sheep from slipping away. Then he slowly chased in the direction Lin Hao pointed. "Master, drive faster." Lin Hao was so anxious. "Little brother, this is the main urban area, with dense crowds, and speed limit is required." After explaining the seriousness of the matter, the master finally showed his true colors. "You have to pay more. Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark." Lin Hao, looking at the master's expression, is he going to rob? But he couldn't care less. He would definitely not catch up if he looked for other cars. He fumbled in his pocket and took out the last 1,000 yuan. The master was delighted to see this, put the money away, and patted his chest to assure. "Don't worry, little brother, leave it to me. Back then, I also participated in car races. It was easy to follow a car, wasn't it? What's wrong with your leg?" Lin Hao keenly discovered that one of his master's legs was a prosthetic leg. People stumble, horses stumble, and it's normal to have some accidents in car races. Quote. Don't worry about these details, just leave it to me. After saying that, the master stepped on the accelerator and the speed of the car suddenly increased a lot. The sudden acceleration almost threw Lin Hao out, and he was so scared that he quickly fastened his seat belt. There are thousands of roads, but safety is the first one. Master, someone is following us, do you want to deal with it? The taxi was discovered by the red-clothed man not long after it was following us. Telling a joke, playing tracking in front of the top killer. No, if he wants to follow, then follow him. Shu Liang didn't care. Just now he saw Lin Hao on the side of the road, and now there is another one following him. You don't need to guess who it is. Not long after, the car drove into a high-end residential area, and the taxi couldn't get in. The driver held his pocket tightly to prevent Lin Hao from taking the money back. Don't blame me if you can't get in. Lin Hao was too lazy to argue with him, and got off the car and chased him quickly. After tracking all the way, Shu Liang's car stopped in front of a single-family villa. He didn't go forward, but found a hidden corner to hide. The master of Huajin has a keen sense of perception. If he gets too close, he will be discovered. This distance is just right. He thought he hadn't been discovered yet. Little did he know that he could not escape the eyes of Shu Liang or Hong Yi. Lin Hao hid his body while looking out to check the situation. Why did Shu Liang come here? Is this one of his residences? Or, is it the home of one of his women? Soon, he didn't have to worry about it anymore. He was dumbfounded when he saw the scene in front of him. With good eyesight, he could clearly see the surroundings of the villa. Shu Liang came to the door of the villa and the door opened from the inside. A woman came out in a maid outfit and knelt on the ground to change Shu Liang's shoes. With her skilled movements, there was no doubt that she was a professional maid. You are quite good at enjoying yourself, Anyway, you are going to die, so enjoy the last time. Wait, second senior sister. Thinking that he had seen it wrong, Lin Hao rubbed his eyes quickly. He didn't look until his eyes were rubbed red, and then he opened his eyes wide. Who else could it be but second senior sister Sha Qingqiu? Lin Hao was furious. This is too much. Shu Liang actually trained his second senior sister to be a maid. Sha Qingqiu was so arrogant in the eyes of outsiders, and was respected as the queen. It was hard to imagine what Shu Liang did to her to make her, who was so arrogant, willing to be a maid. Originally, Sha Qingqiu drove him away, and his unhappy mood disappeared instantly. Compared with her experience, scolding himself a few times, what's the point? It's all his fault. If it weren't for him, second senior sister wouldn't have ended up like this. Before, he planned to endure it and wait for the opportunity to poison Shu Liang in secret. Now seeing second senior sister being bullied like this, how could Lin Hao bear it? It was unbearable, no need to endure it anymore. Seeing Shu Liang holding Sha Qingqiu, who was dressed as a maid, in his arms, he immediately roared. Let go of second senior sister. Ding. Lin Hao is furious, villain value plus 999. Ding. Lin Hao is uneasy, villain value plus 999. Ding. Shu Liang smiled slightly and took the little maid into his arms. At this moment, a roar came. Let go of the second sister. He sneered and ignored it. He hugged the surprised Sha Qingqiu and walked into the villa, and did not forget to close the door. The next is the paid content. As for Lin Hao outside, there is no need to worry. So many people under him are eating dry food. Lin Hao rushed out with a roar. But Shu Liang not only did not stop, but also hugged the second sister into the villa. He simply did not take him seriously. This naked disregard was the greatest humiliation to him. Lin Hao was furious and rushed to the villa at the fastest speed in his life. Swish. However, before he could get close to the villa, a blood-red knife light suddenly appeared. His hair stood on end, goosebumps appeared, and a sense of crisis of death surged into his heart. At the critical moment, he braked urgently, and his body twisted in a strange arc. He narrowly avoided the fatal knife. He avoided it, but not completely. The sharp blade cut through the clothes on his chest, and his skin felt a stinging pain. Lin Hao was shocked and broke out in a cold sweat, and he looked at it intently. He saw a red figure standing in front of him. Another peerless beauty. He was shocked. When did Shu Liang have a bodyguard with the peak of dark energy? He could feel the breath emanating from the beautiful woman opposite, which was no weaker than his. The strong murderous aura seemed to be about to turn into substance. There must be many people who died in her hands. Lin Hao's expression became solemn, his legs slightly bent, and he was ready to attack. Even if there was a peak of dark energy blocking him, what would happen? He had to break in to save the second sister. When he thought of the villa separated by a wall, where the second senior sister was put in various positions by Shu Liang, he felt so uncomfortable that he couldn't breathe. Lin Hao started to force his way in, but found that he couldn't get in at all. He was almost hit by the blood-red dagger in the opponent's hand several times. Even so, he was injured in many places and blood was dripping down. Frustrated, he felt extremely frustrated. He wanted to fight with the opponent in a fist-to-flesh fight, but the red-clothed man didn't give him a chance. With the blood-red dagger in hand, he couldn't get close at all. He wanted to make up for the gap in weapons with the fighting skills he had trained for several years. But he found that the opponent's actual combat ability was not weaker than him at all, and even stronger. The keen perception seemed to be born for killing, and every knife was deadly. He was in danger several times. Until he was exhausted, he didn't get close to the villa at all, and finally he could only leave in a lost and embarrassed state. It's not that he doesn't want to fight to the end for the second senior sister, but it's meaningless. He sensed the aura of several masters of the transformation realm hidden in the dark. Even if he broke through the obstruction of the red-clothed man, there would be stronger beings emerging. After experiencing several life and death crises, Lin Hao gradually calmed down. Since he couldn't save the second senior sister anyway, he might as well keep her useful body and avenge them. Fortunately, Shu Liang didn't seem to want to kill him, so he escaped smoothly. In the villa, it was almost what Lin Hao thought. The spring thunder exploded, and a slanting wind and drizzle didn't know how to stop. The storm lasted until the early morning. Lying on the bed, playing with Sha Qingqiu's black hair, Shu Liang fell into deep thought. He found that the queen of the underworld was becoming more and more obedient. I believe it won't be long before she surrenders. After she surrenders, let her take over the Wolf Alliance and become the godfather of the underground world of the Demon City. Only then will she be the real queen. As for Yi Yuan, that madman is not suitable for the urban underworld. She can be arranged into Skynet and let her toss as much as she wants. It will surely bring some excitement to this peaceful world. Sha Qingqiu is indeed no longer so disgusted with Shu Liang. Isn't there a saying, life is like that, if you can't resist, you can only lie down and enjoy it. I thought it was another day as a maid, but in the evening, Shu Liang received a message and left. What is the reluctance in my heart? The sudden surge of emotions that didn't want to be separated from Shu Liang scared her, and she quickly put aside this thought. I don't have Stockholm Syndrome. Shu Liang left, but she didn't change out of the maid costume immediately. The master said that when you are alone at home, you have to wear a maid costume. Otherwise, if he comes and finds out, you will be punished. Thinking of the punishment, she felt weak in her legs. Shu Liang came to a couple's restaurant. A female host invited him to dinner. It was Li Xiaoming. Didn't relatives come before? She felt guilty for not letting Shu Liang have a good time. So, as soon as her relatives left, she came to Bao's arms to send him off. Li Xiaoming stood at the door of the restaurant, and from time to time she would raise her hand to look at the Patek Philippe on her wrist, and then look around. It was lunchtime now, and people were coming and going on the street. Many people were attracted by her beautiful appearance and explosive figure. Many people were eager to go up and chat with her. However, seeing that she seemed to be waiting for someone, most of them gave up the idea. Li Xiaoming was selected by the airline, and her figure of nearly 1.8 meters once again screened out a group of unconfident people. There was only one young man who was dressed elegantly and obviously had a good background who had the courage to step forward. But before he could take action, a top-of-the-line Rolls-Royce luxury car drove over, and then Li Xiaoming greeted it happily. Watching the two people walk into the couple's restaurant, the young man kept wiping the cold sweat from his forehead. Fortunately, he didn't have time to go up and chat. Never expected that it was the woman that Mr. Shu liked. After a candlelight dinner, Shu Liang and Li Xiaoming took a walk on the street. The noisy sounds around did not make Li Xiaoming feel noisy. She held Shu Liang's hand, with a happy smile on her face, enjoying the world of two people. Handsome man and beautiful woman, talented man and beautiful woman, passers-by all cast their eyes on the couple. No, there are exceptions. When a beggar on the roadside looked at them, his eyes were full of anger, hatred, and heartache. On closer inspection, he was another protagonist, Yi Zan. That night, after learning that all the family property had been squandered by him and that he owed a lot of foreign debts, Yi's father vomited blood and fell to the ground. Yi Zan rushed him to the hospital for emergency treatment. His life was saved, but whether he could wake up was another matter. Knowing that Yi's father had become a vegetable, all the debt collectors set their sights on him. Now he was the only one in the Yi family who could pay back the money. If he escaped, the money they lent would be wasted, so they must keep a close eye on him. How could Yi Zan bear being watched every day? After escaping from the hospital, he realized that a serious problem was in front of him. He had squandered all the money in the family, and now he was penniless. He couldn't go back to the hospital, and he didn't dare to reveal his identity to find a job. A few days later, he was no different from a beggar. It was not until now that he suddenly realized what he was good at, stock trading, and what he was destined to be were all illusions. He regretted it very much. But there is no regret medicine in the world. If God gave him another chance, he would definitely be irreconcilable with gambling and drugs. Today, he was the same as usual. Taking advantage of the peak meal time, there were many people on the street, to see if he could beg for some money. He unexpectedly saw Shu Liang and Li Xiaoming together. He had fallen into beggar status, but Shu Liang hugged his goddess every day. In contrast, the negative emotions in his heart immediately burst out. In addition to regret and self-blame, Yi Zan hated Shu Liang the most. If he hadn't teased him, he wouldn't have been so eager to take revenge and got addicted to stock trading. Everything was Shu Liang's fault. If Shu Liang knew his thoughts, he would be a little surprised. The blind cat actually guessed it correctly. All this was indeed his secret plan. But Yi Zan obviously didn't know the truth yet. It doesn't matter, Shu Liang will tell him the details. Let him die with a clear mind. After all, killing someone should destroy their heart. Ding. Yi Zan is angry with you, villain value plus 666. Ding. Yi Zan is hateful towards you, villain value plus 777. Tisk. Glancing at Yi Zan, who was unrecognizable even by his own mother, Shu Liang had a faint smile on his face. Then, he reached out and embraced her. Li Xiaoming was caught off guard, but she felt the warmth in his arms, and a sense of happiness surged in her heart. Shu Liang's domineering side fascinated her, as if he was supporting her from behind. When Yi Zan saw this scene, his eyes were about to burst into flames. He clenched his fists, and the veins on his forehead were throbbing wildly. He couldn't help but beat Shu Liang up. But when he thought of the scene of exposing his identity and being chased by a group of people for debt, he let go of his hand again. Shu Liang was a little surprised to find that Yi Zan's killing intention towards him was gradually dissipating. It seems that this protagonist has grown up. He knows how to be patient, and is not as impulsive as before. Glancing at the luck above his head, after a series of attacks, there was not much left. I was planning to play with him, and there were still many tricks that I hadn't used yet. A set of combos would definitely make Yi Zan live a life worse than death. Since his luck had been almost harvested, there was no need to waste time. It just so happened that I had an idea that hadn't been verified, so I could use him as an experiment. With a flash of his eyes, Shu Liang saw a couple hotel not far away, and his heart moved. Before, he was either at the heroine's house or at the hotel, but he had never experienced a couple hotel. I heard that there were all kinds of tools inside, and more postures could be unlocked. I don't know if it was true or not. So he said a few words in Li Xiaoming's ear. Ah! Li Xiaoming exclaimed. After realizing that something was wrong, she quickly covered her mouth. She looked at the couple hotel, then turned back and looked at Shu Liang with her beautiful eyes wide open. In the end, she nodded shyly. She usually wouldn't refuse Shu Liang's request. Then, in Yi Zan's dumbfounded eyes, the two walked into the couple hotel. Although I have some guesses about the relationship between the two. But seeing it with my own eyes, I still can't help but shiver with fear. Ding! Yi Zan's mind collapsed, villain value plus 888. At this time, two ordinary-looking, inconspicuous young men appeared. Just as they passed by Yi Zan, they suddenly attacked. The two grabbed his two hands respectively, and one of them put a gun to his waist. Don't move, don't talk, just follow us honestly. Yi Zan didn't react at all. When he came to his senses, he was confused. I was kidnapped. Are you kidding me? If you want to kidnap someone, you should kidnap Shu Liang. I am just a beggar, penniless, don't you kidnap someone without a spot. He was so confused that he didn't dare to resist and could only be taken away. The two took him to the side of the road, where a van was parked. It seemed that they had been following him for a long time. That's right, they were the men Shu Liang arranged to monitor Yi Zan. After being taken into the car, Yi Zan began to panic. Brother, did you rob the wrong person? I'm just a beggar. He looked around and talked to distract the robbers to see if there was a chance to escape. However, the two did not give him a chance, and a gun was pressed against him. Yi Zan sighed helplessly. He had no doubt that as long as he dared to act rashly, the other party would shoot without hesitation. Not long after, he was taken to an abandoned factory. What made him feel strange was that the two robbers tied him up and stood aside, as if waiting for someone. There was someone behind the scenes directing him. Such an idea came to his mind. Who is it? Unfortunately, his doubts were destined to be unanswered. Unable to break free from the rope, the two robbers watched him and couldn't escape, so Yi Zan could only wait for the trial in agony. 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. More than 3 hours passed, and this feeling of waiting to die made him feel extremely stressed and sweaty. At this moment, there was a noise outside. It seems that a car is coming. Yi Zan was refreshed and couldn't help but get nervous. Is he finally going to meet the mastermind behind his kidnapping? Tap, tap, tap. There was a sound of footsteps. Every step he took seemed to step on his heart, and Yi Zan felt suffocated. He stared at the door. Soon he saw a figure appear. Shu Liang. Seeing who was coming, Yi Zan's pupils shrank and he was stunned. Tisk. Sorry, it took a while. I had time to come here after Li Xiaoming fainted. Shu Liang walked in and couldn't help but sigh when he saw him tied up. However, he had a playful smile on his face, so how could he be apologetic? Yi Zan's face darkened. It took a while. I had time to come here after Li Xiaoming fainted. Does that mean I had to make his goddess faint before I came? This is a naked humiliation. He knew Shu Liang was deceiving Li Xiaoming, and now his true colors are finally revealed. Yi Zan was furious, looking at Shu Liang fiercely and roaring. Come to me if you have anything to do, don't hurt Xiaoming. Hey, so, Shu Liang chuckled, and then changed the subject. Didn't I come to you? Yi Zan was stunned, feeling that something was wrong. Shu Liang, what are you going to do? As if he thought of something, he sneered. You arrested me to extort my demolition fee, right? I'm afraid I'll disappoint you. He was locked up here for more than 3 hours, and he thought a lot. I am a small person, what is there to kidnap? He thought of the exposure of his family's demolition of 50 million, and the heat has not dissipated until now. It should be that this money attracted some criminals. I didn't expect that this person was Shu Liang. It seems that he is still conservative. Shu Liang is not only a scumbag who cheats on girls and feelings, but also a criminal who kidnaps and extorts and does all kinds of evil. Thinking of his goddess being played around by him, Yi Zan felt like a knife in his heart. Shu Liang, do I look like I'm short of money? Yi Zan sneered. Don't pretend, otherwise why did you catch me? Of course, before you die, you'll be a clear-headed ghost. What? Yi Zan was shocked and blurted out, you want to kill me? His expression kept changing. Kill him? How is that possible? This is a society governed by the rule of law. Killing requires a life. Shabi Pharmaceutical, Baopi Group, Tulso Company. Shu Liang found it interesting, rubbed his chin, and faintly mentioned the names of several companies. At first Yi Zan didn't understand what it meant. Gradually, he understood and his eyes widened. Aren't these the big foreign companies he invested in when he was speculating in stocks? It was also because of the collapse of these companies that he lost all his assets, and his memory is still fresh. He didn't tell anyone about this, so how could Shu Liang know? Could it be? Yi Zan felt a strong uneasiness in his heart. How do you know about these companies? He had suspected before that he had fallen into the trap of killing a pig, but due to the collapse of several large companies, he no longer thought about it. Now, this ridiculous idea pops up again. What do you think? Shu Liang smiled playfully. This seemed to be a default gesture. Yi Zan felt a sudden change in his heart and quickly shook his head in denial. No. Impossible. Even if you were behind the scenes, how could you bring down those companies worth hundreds of billions? Oh, are they very powerful? In front of the Shu family, they are just bigger ants. Yi Zan's body was shaken and he lost his voice in shock. You are from the Shu family. Shu Liang, Shu family, no wonder. Not many people know about the Shu family, the head of the 4 major families in the Demon City. When he saw Shu Liang and Li Xiaoming together, he just thought they were some rich second-generation scumbag. Shu Liang's identity has not been investigated. If he had known earlier, even if he was being tricked, he would not have thought of revenge. I will definitely accumulate a certain amount of strength before taking action. But, it's too late. Combined with the fact that he won the pig-killing plate, everything makes sense. What a generous act. In order to deal with his mere tens of millions, he actually caused several large companies to close down. Should I say it was his honor? Or is it his misfortune? Yi Zan murmured to himself, looking a little crazy, and raised his head suddenly, his eyes bloodshot. It's you. Everything belongs to you, right? Stock trading will ruin your demolition expenses and your family fortune. My father was so angry that he vomited blood repeatedly, fleeing after being chased for debt. The anger that had been suppressed for the past few days completely exploded at this moment. He struggled frantically, trying to fight Shu Liang. Unfortunately, the rope was tied too tight and he couldn't break free. Ding! Yi Zan's mentality exploded, villain value plus 1000. Not too stupid. Shu Liang raised his eyebrows, the smile on his face not diminishing. By the way, I have something to tell you. It's not all about killing pigs. You do have a talent for stock trading. You don't need any layout. It just adds fuel to the fire, making you sink deeper and deeper. Brush. Yi Zan was dumbfounded. He had a talent for stock trading, and his feeling was right. Originally, he hated stock trading because of his bankruptcy. Now suddenly someone came out and told him that there was nothing wrong with stock trading, it was just that he was being cheated. Seeing that his mentality was about to collapse, Shu Liang paused and struck while the iron was hot. Also, don't you want to test your relatives and friends? I will help you publish it and make it a hot search. Are you surprised or surprised? Yi Zan was completely dumbfounded. It turns out that it was Shu Liang's fault that he was exposed for testing people's hearts. Kill people and kill your heart. What is murder and heartbreaking? That's it. After a while, he angrily asked the doubts in his heart, hysterically. Why? He couldn't figure it out. It seems that I have not offended Shu Liang, right? Instead, he deceived his goddess. It's another exposure plan and another bankruptcy. Why did Shu Liang do everything possible to target him? I'm happy, that's all. I'd love to. Willing. Meaning. Yi Zan closed his eyes and his body began to tremble uncontrollably. Just because he was willing, his family was ruined and he became a beggar. Ding! Yi Zan's mentality exploded, villain value plus 1000. Ding! Yi Zan's mind collapsed, villain value plus 1000. Bite! In Shu Liang's sight, the luck on Yi Zan's head was visibly reduced. It was originally planned to continue to attack the harvest. Suddenly something moved in his mind, and he thought about that guess and needed to verify it. Luck is about to be used up, so it's just the right time. So, he ignored Yi Zan, who was shouting and screaming like a maniac. He winked at his subordinates and went out. Shu Liang got into the car and returned. Not long after, there was a shocking explosion from behind, and the abandoned factory exploded. Even if a special task force came to investigate, they would only find that the gas pipe exploded and killed a beggar inside. The truth will remain buried forever, never known. Ding! Yi Zan is wiped out, villain value plus 1000. In the car, Shu Liang propped up his head and fell into deep thought. According to Yi Zan's remaining luck, he should be able to harvest 5 or 6 waves. This villain value is only equivalent to 1/5. He was guessing whether he could kill the protagonist directly and take away all the luck. If he could, then things would be simple. It turned out that he thought too much, and his luck would lose at least 1/5, which was not worth it. It's troublesome. Besides, in his opinion, it's not troublesome, just a little waste of time. Just bored, just add a little fun to life. Thinking like this, Shu Liang's thoughts became clear, and a kind smile appeared on his face. In a high-end community not far away, in a room with exquisite decoration, a mature woman in her 30s with a beautiful face sneakily opened the door and entered the house from outside. After taking a look at her daughter's room, she quietly went into the bathroom and carefully unpacked the pregnancy test stick. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.